You're live. Don't let me stop you.
You're muted if you are here listening and trying to talk.
Hey, morning,
Woohoo.
sir. You're live. Don't let me stop you.
Oh, no, it's just you. And I'm not really live on YouTube or anything. So,
No, you are now.
uh-oh. As for me and my house, we will serve you, Lord, with holy hands in worship. We will not bow down to the gods of man. We will worship the God of Israel. You are holy, holy. There is no one else like you. You are holy, holy. You are not one else like you. Gods of man, worship. As for me and my house, we will serve you, Lord. To holy hands in worship. No, we will not bow down to the gods of men. We will worship the God of Israel. You are holy, holy. There is no one else like you. You are holy, holy. There is no one else like you. Choose this day who will serve. Choose this day who will serve. Come on, choose this day who will serve. Choose this day who will serve. Praise you, Father. Can you guys hear me good out there?
I think so. Try it again. Let me see your volume level.
Can you hear me? Check,
Yeah,
check, 1, 2. Good
yeah,
deal.
that'll work.
All right, this week we're going to be reading the Torah portion, Genesis 18:1 through 22:24. I think this week we're just going to kind of read through it all. So if you have any notes or any questions or, any topic points, just take note of them. And then when we're done with the portion, we'll dive into that and do some midrash. So I'll have eSword up. I read the scriptures 2009. So I want to go ahead and get started with that. Hello, Kaylee.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late.
Nope, you're good. Perfect time. We're just getting ready to dive into Genesis 18. Quick little recap here. Be reading this week's Torah portion, Genesis 18 through 22, 24, which I think is the end of 22. And then after we read that, then we'll dive into discussion, I'll do a little midrash about it, and then see where time gets us there. Then we might get into the Haftarah and then Brit Hadashah.
Are we gonna stop after each chapter, or do you want to stop after all of the chapters?
Well, it's not only my call. What do you guys think? I think we can take a few moments after each chapter if that's what you prefer, Kaylee. I don't care either way,
Yeah, I like doing it that way.
right? Because you don't get too
And
far away and off subject by the time you get back around to it.
yeah, and if you want me to read anything, just give me the easy chapter. Okay.
All right. I think I'll go ahead and read 18 and 19 and 20 if you want to get 21 and 22. And Yahuwah appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre, while he was sitting in the tent floor in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and saw 3 men standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the ground, and said, Yahuwah, if I have now found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And let me bring a piece of bread, and refresh your hearts, and then go on, for this is why you have come to your servant. And they said, do as you have said. So Abraham ran into the tent to Sarah and said, hurry, make ready 3 measures of fine flour, knead it, and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender and a good calf, gave it to a young man, and he hurried to prepare it. And he took curds and milk, and the calf which he had prepared, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree as they ate. And they said to him, where is Sarah your wife? And he said, see, in the tent. And he said, I shall certainly return to you according to the time of your life. And see, Sarah your wife is to have a son. And Sarah was listening in the tent which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah was past the way of woman. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my master being old too? And Yahuwah said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I truly have a child since I am old? Is the matter too hard for Yahuwah? At the appointed time I am going to return to you, according to the time of life, and Sarah is to have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, no, but you did laugh. And the men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to send them away. And Yahuwah said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Since Abraham is certainly going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him, so that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yahuwah, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that Yah brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And Yah said, because the outcry against Sodom and Amorrah is great, and because their sin is very heavy, I'm going down now to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it has come to me, and if not, I know. Abraham intercedes for Sodom. So the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Yah still stood before Abraham. And Abraham drew near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wrong? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to act this way, to slay the righteous with the wrong, so that the righteous should be as the wrong. Far be it from you. Does the judge of all the earth not do right? And Yahuwah said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I shall spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, look, please, I am but dust and ashes, have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahuwah. Suppose there are 5 less than 50 righteous. Would you destroy all of the city for the lack of 5? And he said, if I find 45, I do not destroy it. And he spoke to him yet again and said, suppose there are found 40. And he said, I would not do it for the sake of 40. And he said, let not Yahuwah be displeased, and let me speak. Suppose there are found 30. And he said, I would not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, look, please, I have not taken it upon myself to speak to Yahuwah. Suppose there are found 20. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 20. And he said, Let not Yahuwah be displeased, and let me speak only this time. Suppose there are found 10. And he said, I would not destroy it for the sake of 10. Then Yahuwah went away as soon as he had ended speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. I just can't help but think of this Jewish person just bargaining and like heckling, if you will, for Sodom and Gomorrah, like 50, 45, 40. Any other comments?
That's pretty good. This Jewish guy heckling for Sodom and Gomorrah.
Seriously, what it is right there. Like,
I mean,
as I'm reading that, that's what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my bibbles? There they are. Anything else on 18 before we move on to 19?
The only thing I have to add is the name Isaac means laughter.
Hmm.
And they both kind of laughed when they found out about having a child.
Right, they did both laugh.
That's great.
Like, they both laughed in a different way. I think
Sarah
Abraham,
laughed as like a scoff.
yeah. Well, I mean, she's like 90. She's like,
Yep.
ugh, okay, now.
Yeah,
out
I
of
mean,
all these years.
she was barren all of her life, and then on top of that, she had probably already gone through menopause.
Yeah, actually, that's something I've kind of thought about. I wonder if menopause is actually a natural thing that women go through, or if it's something because of our fallen state and how unhealthy everybody is. If it's something just that happens to women now, but didn't happen then because of people like Sarah. They did have a longer lifespan, though.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. The longer lifespan.
But I feel like menopause is not really that natural. I feel like it causes a lot of problems. I think it's a hormonal issue.
So a genetic defect.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. But I mean, that's just like a theory I have in my head. I've never taken the time to look into it.
Yeah, chapter verse, Kaylee. Chapter verse. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to 19. And the two messengers came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. And when Lot saw them, he rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Look, please, my masters, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet, and rise early and go your way. And they said, No, but let us spend the night in the open square. But he urged them strongly, and they turned into him and came into his house, and he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every part surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said to him, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, and let us know them. So Lot went out to them through the doorway and shut the door behind him, and said, Please, my brothers, do not do evil. Look, please, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and do them as you wish. Only do no deed to these men, because they have come under the shadow of my roof. But they said, Stand back. And they said, This one came in to sojourn, and should he always judge? Now we are going to treat you worse than them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot, and came near to break down the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, and they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said to Lot, Have you anyone else here, a son-in-law, and your sons, and your daughters, and whomever you have in the city? Bring them out of this place. For we are going to destroy this place, because of the cry against them has grown great before the face of Yah, and Yah has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who had married his daughters, and said, "Get up, get out of this place, for Yahuwah is going to destroy this city." But to his son-in-law he seemed to be as one joking. And when morning dawned, the messengers urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of this city." And while he loitered, the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand and the hands of his 2 daughters, Yahuwah having compassion on him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And it came to be, when they had brought them outside, that he had said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be consumed." And Lot said to them, "Oh no, Yahuwah. Look, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have increased your loving commitment, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I am unable to escape to the mountains, lest calamity overtake me and I die. Look, please, the city is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there. Is it not a small matter? And let my life be saved?" And he said to him, "Look, I have favored you concerning this matter also, without overthrowing the city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I am not able to do any deed until you arrive there." So the name of the city was called Sor. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zor, and Yah rained sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahuwah out of the heavens. So he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But his wife looked back behind him, and she became a post of salt. And Abraham arose early in the morning, and went to the place where he had stood before Yah. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward the land of the plain. And he looked and saw the smoke of the land, which went up like smoke of a furnace. Thus it came to be, when Elohim destroyed the cities of the plain, that Elohim remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities which Lot had dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zor, and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Zor. And he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. And the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man on earth to come into us, as is the way of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine and lie with him, so that we preserve the seed of our father." So they made their father drink wine that night, and their firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. And it came to be on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, "See, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight as well, and you go in and lie with him, so that we keep the seed of our father." So they made their father drink wine that night as well. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. And the firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the children of Ammon to this day. Wow, there's a lot in there. So you guys go ahead. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion.
Well, Lot made them a feast. He prepared a feast for them and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. So I wonder if this was the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
I wondered that too when we were reading it. I mean, I'm sure they didn't only eat bread at unleavened bread time, but I'm not sure, why it would mention that otherwise.
You can't pick that cat up, it just has stitches.
I wanted to point out that Lot was willing to give his 2 daughters, virgin daughters, to save the 2 messengers. I just
There's something
thought
to that, and I don't know what it is.
No.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too, because there's that other story that's very similar to this, but they actually do give the daughters. And so I don't understand why people would do that. I don't really get it.
Is that the one that It's the guy in Israel, and he takes the woman, and then he's like on his way home or something, and then he ends up giving his wife, and they kill her, and then he cuts her up into pieces and sends the piece to each of the 12 tribes or something like that.
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah,
you're talking about?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that like in Kings, Samuel? I can't remember where that is. It's in Kings, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not positive. I know we talked about it the other day, not too long ago.
Yeah, we talked about it at
Was it with
Sukkot.
Donna?
Yeah, well, Brooke had, I didn't understand the context of what Curtis and I can't remember that other guy's name,
Oh, okay.
and Roy, and
Yeah.
Brooke was, because they were saying something about a woman that goes back to her father's house. It's
Oh, yep, yep.
like she's a harlot or something. But
Mm-hmm.
I asked Curtis, I was like, well, where is this in the Bible so I can read the context, and all he said was it's everywhere in the Bible, and I was like, well, that doesn't help me. So, but it wasn't until like the next day that Brooke pulled that up for me. If Brooke's near you, she'll know what chapter and book it is, because she knew it right off the top of her head.
Right. Uh, yeah, like the only thing that even comes to mind is like Lot is trying to not participate in sodomy and is trying to protect his guests. You know, so like maybe if they have my virgin daughters, you know, they'll at least not be doing sodomy. You know, like one less thing they'll be doing. I don't know. Yeah.
Because
Wasn't there?
he is bargaining with Yahuwah to save the city, and you don't need just
Well, that was
that many.
Abraham. Like Lot doesn't even know at this point.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha.
Isn't there a Torah command that when you have like someone like a passerby coming through, you're supposed to take them in and maybe, I don't know if it says something about protecting them, but you're supposed to like house them and feed them.
I mean,
I wonder
yeah,
if
like I think this is Lot, you know, taking in some strangers and giving them the exact same protection as somebody under his household.
but the problem is the daughters are under his household.
Right, yeah, no, like I agree, but I think this kind of puts the guest above the normal the people, you know, like treat your neighbor as yourself, and this is like going above and beyond that.
Wow.
I feel like there has to be a lot of context that we're missing out of
Uh,
both
um,
stories.
yeah, I'm sure you're right.
That's what I feel like too. Yeah, there's a lot more to this story in the whole chapter. Because in the end, the daughters end up sleeping with him just so they could. Yeah, I don't know. It's just messed up.
And the crazy thing is you could kind of almost understand because they just watched the town that they fled from, you know, go up in fire and sulfur. But at the same time, too, they just came from the city Zoar. Like instead of they should have just went to the mountains in the first place. They went to the city Zoar, and then they still ended up in the mountains, and they thought that they had no one else to procreate with. And I'm sure in the city of Zoar there was people.
Why were they so scared in that other city? Maybe they were thinking that it was going to happen to every city or something. I don't know.
It says that they were afraid to stay in Zoar, and so he stayed in the cave. Something interesting too is that people are looking for Sodom and Gomorrah, and it says brimstone, which is sulfur, which is salt, and we have the Dead Sea. So it's like I wonder if the Dead Sea is Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's just right there.
Yeah, I mean, if you go off of Ron Wyatt's discovery. But yeah, like all of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah are all around the Dead Sea.
I think I heard that there was some people that wanted to go diving in the Dead Sea and look for like buildings or old buildings, and the Israeli government told them they were not allowed to do it. And then like a couple of days later, the government started blowing things up in the sea, and then told them that they could go and dive
Hmm,
afterwards.
of course.
That's messed up.
But yeah, the I think the women, because 1931 says, and there is no man in the land to come into us, as is the way of all the earth. Like I think they're kind of assuming that this is like a Noah event, and that everyone, or at least every man on the earth, is a sodomite. You know, like there is no straight males left, I guess, is I think the daughter's fear.
That's messed
Because
up
it's,
too.
I don't think
That
it's
Interesting.
just Sodom and Gomorrah. I think it's like 11 or 12 or 14 cities or something like in that big plain.
that makes a
So,
lot more sense to me, because I was thinking they just came from the city of Zoar, but I didn't think about the fact that maybe because that's where we get the word Sodom, sodomizing, and homosexuality was a big deal. I just read a book talking about Ishtar and how Ishtar was the goddess that created men. Like she would like invoke spells during near the summer solstice that would try to bring forth men becoming women and women becoming men, and creating like an uprise in homosexuality. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that until recently. And the guy in the book cited the ancient Babylonian documents. You can get online and actually read it. And it talks about how she was the goddess of, sexuality and lust and passion, and also the goddess of essentially homosexuality.
hmm, nice.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty fascinating. I would not doubt that at all.
All right, let's move on to 20. Genesis chapter 20. And Abraham set out from there to the land of the south, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and stayed in Gerar. And Abraham said concerning Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech, sovereign of Gerar, sent me and took Sarah. But Elohim came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, See, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. Tabby, is your headphones on?
No.
It's causing delay. Your phone through this condenser mic.
Yeah,
However,
Okay. Hang on.
I don't think I can hear it. Maybe it's just you.
got my headphones on and loud. Glad you guys can't hear it. However, Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Yahuwah, would you kill a righteous nation also? Did he not say to me, She is my sister? And uh, she herself said, He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and in the innocence of my hands, I have done this. And Elohim said to him in a dream, Yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, and so I kept you from the sinning against me. For this reason, I did not let you touch her. And now return to the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and let him pray for you, and you live. But if you do not return her, know that you shall certainly die, you and all that are yours. So Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and spoke all these words in their hearing, and the men were greatly frightened. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what have you done to us? And what have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and my region a great sin? You have done matters to me that should not be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what did you have in view, that you have done this matter? And Abraham said, only because I said to myself, the fear of Elohim is not in this place, and they shall kill me for the sake of my wife. And yet she is truly my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to be, when Elohim caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, this is your loving commitment that you should do for me in every place wherever we go. Say of me, he is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep and cattle and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, see, my land is before you. Dwell wherever it is good in your eyes. And to Sarah he said, see, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. See, it is you, a covering of eyes before all who are with you and before all others, and you are cleared before everyone. And Abraham prayed to Elohim, and Elohim healed Abimelech and his wife and his female servants, so they bore children. For Yahuwah had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Hello, Donna.
Shalom, welcome Donna.
Thank you. Everybody doing good?
Doing
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
We just finished reading, as you can tell, Genesis 20, and going to see if there's any comments or thoughts.
And if you wanted to make any comments from the previous chapters, that's fine as well. It was
sure.
The really tough stuff.
Yeah, we started in 18 and did 19 and just read 20. And we're going to go to the end of 22, I believe.
So yeah, if you can explain why Lot offered up his daughters, or anything along those lines, you know, like the super tough questions, that'd be great.
That would be great. Yes. Tabby, you're muted. She said, never mind. Any comments on 20? Anybody? Wow, I figured there'd be lots to say.
Right. Yeah, nobody came at all.
My notes I have for 27. It says Abraham is called a prophet and intercedes on behalf of Abimelech, which is like a priestly duty. And then my other note I have, it says Abimelech is different than Genesis 12. It's a title for a king. Melech, like not the Abim, but Melech equals king in Hebrew. So it's just like a moniker.
Yeah, verse 7 calls Abraham a prophet.
Maybe that tent will collapse.
Yeah, and then Shalom, baby.
Yeah,
So, am I understanding correctly that so y'all had caused all the women to be barren because of Sarah, but then after he returned Sarah, y'all healed them?
Yep.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, so there's no telling how long he had Sarah for them to notice that all of the women were barren. I mean,
It had to have been a while.
Couple of months at least.
Well, I'd say even up to a year. Like it, long enough for it to be noticed as being something odd or off, like no births in a
Yeah.
extended amount of time.
Well, I guess it couldn't be in a year exactly because don't the angels come back to Sarah and Abraham like a year later? Is that? I think maybe I missed that part, or does that happen later?
After the time they said that she would have a child to the time when she actually did. Is that
Yeah,
what you mean?
because don't they like revisit her like a year exactly later, and then she is with child, or does that happen later? It says,
I don't know.
it says, and the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh, saying, 'Shall I indeed bear a child when I am so old? Is anything too difficult for Yahweh? At the appointed time, I will return to you at this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son.'" So, if anything, I'd say it was like 9 months for them to notice whether or not people were having children, because a year later they come to her and
Right,
she's
and we haven't even got to that part yet. So, like, or yeah. Never mind.
So something that was brought up in a different group last year when we were reading through this portion was about deception and lying. Abraham lied. Well, I mean, it's half lie, but he still lied. He still deceived Abimelech. But yet, when he left, he was blessed. And we see this in other places, like with Rahab. And so, what's y'all's thought on that?
Like bearing false witness.
Yeah, like deceiving, but yet it looks like with the even with the deception, the Father still allows for them to be blessed.
I think it's
I
a
mean,
gray
Rahab did it.
area.
Yeah, I mean, both of them seem to be doing it to protect life, but I don't. I'm asking.
Because he says, uh, Abraham said, "Because I thought surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she actually is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. She became my wife." And so to me, it's like he didn't
didn't lie.
really lie because she was his sister. He just left out a lot of details. So it's kind of like a gray area in my mind.
But he didn't bear false witness. You know,
Yeah, because isn't bearing false witness actually have to do with court?
I mean, that's a whole different subject, and that's kind of where I lean. Yes, there's a difference between lying and bearing false witness. From my simple lens.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to keep reading, and maybe I change my mind later. But in my mind, it has to do with like a court setting, like you're bearing false witness against a brother or sister, for them to get the death penalty. You know.
Yeah, it is interesting that Abraham seems to be sort of pimping out Sarah for his own benefit. I mean, granted, it does, say the reason that he did it, but if he trusted God, why wouldn't God just protect them? It is weird, and
For
I do
sure.
find it interesting that they deceive and get blessed, and then Isaac basically does the same thing, like following his mom, and then Joseph does the same thing with all of the herds of Laban. It it is weird that these patriarchs of the family deceive and still get blessed. Yeah, it seems like there's details left out of the story, or or they're trying to take blessings into their own hands, or something. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I think it's just showing the human condition and how, everybody has faults. Because Jacob, even when, Dinah gets stolen, he's too frightened to go up against Shechem when the sons end up doing it. All these patriarchs are people that we can look to in stories and situations, but they're still human that make mistakes and are still figuring it out as they're walking.
That's beautiful.
That is awesome. Blessing despite your faults.
Yeah, because none of these patriarchs can't be Yeshua. There's only one Yeshua, but they can still be considered righteous to God because, they would sin and repent and turn from those ways and learn from their stories. And now we can look at those stories ourselves and see how certain choices the patriarchs made are probably choices we ourselves shouldn't make.
But yet we do.
Yeah, but then that's where the priesthood came into place, and that's why Yeshua is our high priest, is because then you just repent and you turn from those ways, and then we have a faithful high priest that's able to cleanse us and raise us from the dead.
Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Hello, Miss Tina. I've got it set up where people come into the group automatically muted. No big deal, but if you want to say hi, just unmute your mic.
I downloaded the app, so I'm gonna step out and I'll be back.
Okay. You're still muted, Miss Tina. There's a little mute button on the screen.
Oh, that
Oh.
that mute. Okay, I was pushing the wrong button. Who else here?
We got Donna, Kaylee, Jeremy, and of course Tabby. And
Okay.
then YouTube World. Say hi to YouTube World.
YouTube world.
I think I heard Brian in the background on Kaylee's phone too, so he should
Oh,
be
yeah,
there.
that's true.
You can see
I'm
other.
here.
Okay, you're
Kaylee
welcome.
doesn't let me. Kaylee doesn't let
Nobody
me
else has
control
got
the
their.
phone.
How do I turn the camera off? Okay, there we go. Okay, fine.
All right. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get on into chapter 21 of Genesis. You want me to read that, Kaylee, or would you like to?
I don't care. It's up to you.
I'll go ahead and read it unless you just want to. I'll let you if you want to, but I'm good
No,
with
it's
it.
okay. I just wanted to help you out.
And Yah visited Sarah as he had said, and Yah did for Sarah as he had spoken. So Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the appointed time of which Elohim had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Yitzhak, or Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Yitzhak when he was 8 days old, as Elohim had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Yitzhak was born to him. And Sarah said, Elohim has made me laugh, and everyone who fears of it laughs with me, or everyone who hears of it laughs with me. She said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Yitzhak was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Mitzrian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. So she said to Abraham, drive out this female servant and her son, for the son of this female servant shall not inherit with my son with Yitzhak. And the matter was very evil in the eyes of Abraham because of his son. And Elohim said to Abraham, let it not be evil in your eyes because of the boy and because of your female servant. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Yitzhak your seed is called. And of the son of the female servant, I will also make a nation, because he is your seed. And Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, which he gave Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, also the boy, and sent her away. And she left and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat down about a bow shot away, for she said, Let me not see the death of the boy. And she sat opposite him, and lifted her voice and wept. And Elohim heard the voice of the boy. And the messenger of Elohim called to Hagar from the heavens, and said to her, What is the matter with you, Hagar? Do not fear, for Elohim has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Arise, lift up the boy, and hold him with your hand, for I make a great nation of him. And Elohim opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water, and gave the boy a drink. And Elohim was with the boy, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Mitzrayim. And it came to be at that time that Abimelech and Pichol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, Elohim is with you in all that you do. And now swear to me by Elohim not to be untrue to me, to my offspring, or to my descendants. Do to me according to the loving commitment that I have done to you and to the land in which you have dwelt. And Abraham said, I swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had seized. And Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this deed. Neither did you inform me, nor did I hear until today. So Abraham took sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech asked Abraham, What are these 7 ewe lambs which you have set by themselves? And he said, Take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand to be my witness that I have dug this well. So he called that place Beersheba, because the two of them swore an oath there. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba, and Abimelech rose with Pichol, the commander of his army, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. And he planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there called on the name of Yahuwah, the everlasting El. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistines many days.
So, I want to point out that Abraham gave them an empty skin of water. It's terrible. Sarcasm, sorry, just in case. And then yeah, like the 7 ewe lambs. That's obviously tied into the King James Bible that was purified 7 times in silver, and lets us know that it's King James only. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, I know I've just joked twice in a row.
Of course.
But the 7 lambs is a witness that he dug this well. Like, can you imagine? Like you paid the servants to dig the well, and then there's a mistake, and somebody else thinks it's their well, and you go up to the person that mistakenly thought it was theirs, and you're like, here, take these 7 lambs as a witness that this is my actual well. Like, he's paying even more money for this thing that's already his. I don't know.
I didn't catch that.
And the ewe lambs, those are the female ones, right?
Yes.
So a thought on that, Jeremy, when you were saying about the ewe lambs, is that not when you said just now that you're paying more for what yours already? Do we not do that today?
You got a good point there.
We do that with taxes.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that struck me was how that Abraham was great enough in the area to be dealing directly with the king
Yeah.
and coming into an agreement with a king of a nation, or king of an area.
Well, maybe that's why he tricked him with Sarah, because maybe Abimelech and Abraham got to know each other really well after Abimelech realized that Sarah was Abraham's wife. And they're like, oh, we know each other now.
Good point.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the more interesting sections. Lots of why questions.
So a thought on Haggai and Ishmael, about him being a bow shot away. So was she actually going to kill him?
Oh.
Why else would it use bow shot away description?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it does say that she didn't want to see the kid die, so yeah, it's so confusing.
She's probably super conflicted. I mean, which maybe explains to the
Right? And
confusion
then
of.
she was the one crying out, but then God heard the boy calling out. You know, it doesn't say that God was answering her prayers or the angel heard her prayers. It is going over to the son's prayers.
I don't know, from just the way I read it, I think it's just telling you a measurement,
Yeah.
bow shot away. I don't think that, I mean, who knows? I wasn't there, but I highly doubt that's what was going to happen.
Well, I mean, if it, I mean, I can only speak from non-experience, but if I was going to watch my son starve and dehydrate and die, I would almost rather do it myself than to watch that process.
That's where I lie on this. Like, and again, I don't know. That doesn't explain, why she was, turned opposite direction, but within bow's length, other than she was just really conflicted about it.
I do think it's interesting that she, like, when her mind's clear enough, she can see the will. So I just wonder if she was so distraught and in so much uh, sorrow that she just wasn't thinking or looking around clearly. Because it says that, she just like looks up and there's the will.
She had a good
She
case
was
of
like,
heat
oh,
stroke.
well, there it is.
Well, if Abraham didn't give them any water,
Yeah, I was just joking
and
around. He did
there's
actually give her water.
but if he only gave her like one thing of water, maybe the water ran out and she was delirium. I don't
Oh,
know.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I did think that too. Like
It's a
where
good
you,
possibility because it does
it
mention that
says
they'd ran out of water in the verse before.
it
Now,
says chapter 17 in the book of Jubilees. It says she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba, and the water in the bottle was spent, and the child thirsted and was not able to go on and fell down. And his mother took him and cast him under an olive tree and went and sat her down over against him at the distance of a bowshot, for she said, let me not see the death of my child. And as she sat, she wept. And an angel of God, one of the holy ones, said unto her, why weepest thou, Hagar? Arise, take the child, and hold him in thine hand, for God hath heard thy voice, and hath seen the child. And she opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled her bottle with water, and she gave her child to drink, and she arose and went towards the wilderness of Paran. And the child grew and became an archer, and God was with him, and his mother took him a wife from among the daughters of Egypt. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Nabioth, for she said, the Lord was nigh to me when I called upon him. And it came to pass, and then it goes on.
Did you say that and the boy became an archer?
Yes,
Yes.
it says the child grew and became an archer, and God was with him.
Didn't
Now,
it say
now
that
that's
in
interesting.
Genesis 21 here too?
It talks
Yeah.
about a bow shot away, and then the boy grows up to be an archer. That's interesting.
Well, this one right here, it says that when she started to weep, okay, where does it say it? It says that she sat over him, and sat her down over against him at the distance of a bow shot, for she said, "Let me not see the death of my child."
I've got the Britain Septuagint pulled up here on the screen share. And as Jeremy pointed out, it was her, I think in one version, let me compare, where it has her just crying, but in the Britain, it talks about the child cried aloud and wept. And she said over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. Whereas the Britain says, and the child cried aloud and wept. So, I don't know, just interesting. I always like to compare to the Septuagint.
Right.
Was the Sefer only translated by Pigeon?
He had
Is it Pigeon?
a group of people, I believe, that worked on it with him, but I really don't know. That's just what I think.
Do you?
It
Okay.
was under his guidance, his directions. Yes.
And it does say here in the Genesis 21:20 that he became an archer, you know. And you were just reading from Jasher 17, Kaylee, is
No,
that correct?
no
Jubilees?
Jubilees. Yeah, Jubilees.
And then his mother made him marry an Egyptian.
The next chapter is going to be lots of fun. Anything else on 21 before we move on to the excitement? Excuse me. All right, going to start in on 22 here. And it came to be after these events that Elohim tried Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Take your son now, your only son Yitzchak, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as an ascending offering on one of the mountains which I command you. And Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey, and took two of his young men with him, and Yitzchak his son. Excuse me. And he split the wood for the ascended offering, and arose and went to the place which Elohim had commanded him. And on the third day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place from a distance. So Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, while the boy and I go over there and worship and come back to you. And Abraham took the wood of the ascended offering and laid it at Yitzchak his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the two of them went together. And Yitzchak spoke to Abraham his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, See, the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for the ascended offering? And Abraham said, My son, Elohim does provide for himself the lamb for an ascended offering. And the two of them went together. And they came to the place which Elohim had commanded him. And Abraham built a slaughter place there and placed the wood in order. And he bound Yitzchak his son and laid him on the slaughter place upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the messenger of Yahuwah called to him from the heavens and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the boy, nor touch him. For now I know that you fear Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted his eyes and looked and saw behind him a ram caught in a bush by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for an ascending offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Yahuwah Yireh, if that's correct, as it is said to this day, on the mountain Yahuwah provides. And the messenger of Yahuwah called to Abraham a second time from the heavens and said, By myself I have sworn, declares Yahuwah, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly bless you, and I shall certainly increase your seed as the stars of the heavens, and as the sand which is on the seashore, and let your seed possess the gate of their enemies. And in your seed all of the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. Then Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to be after these events that it was reported to Abraham, saying, See, Milcah too has borne children to your brother Nahor, Utz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram, and Kesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Yidlaf, and Bethuel. And Bethuel brought forth Ribkah. These eight Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore Tabah, and Gaham, and Tahash, and Makkah. That concludes the Torah portion of today. So let's dig in. I know there's several things that we could talk about here.
So in 22:4, it says, on the third day, so it was a 3-day journey. And in the book of Jubilees 17:15, it says, in the first month of this Jubilee, on the 12th of this month, there were voices in heaven regarding Abraham. And then it talks about how they set off on their journey on the 12th day. So that would make it the 15th day by the time they got there on the first month of the year, which would be Passover.
Passover, yeah, wow.
Yeah, right.
And so, let me see if I can read. Him. It says that he was faithful in all that he was told, and that he loved God, and that in every affliction he was faithful. And the prince Mastema came and said before Yahweh, Behold, Abraham loves Isaac his son, and he delights in him above all things. Bind him to offer him as a burnt offering on the altar, and thou wilt see if he will do this command, and thou wilt know if he is faithful in everything wherein thou dost try him. And the Lord knew that Abraham was faithful in all of his afflictions, for he had tried him through his country and with famine, and had tried him with the wealth of kings, and had tried him again through his wife, when she was torn from him, and with circumcision, and had tried him through Ishmael and Hagar, his maidservant, when he sent them away. In everything wherein he had tried him, he was found faithful, and his soul was not impatient, and he was not slow to act, for he's faithful and a lover of Yahweh. And then it goes into the story, and it says, they went to the place on the third day, and he saw the place afar off, and he came to the well of water, and he said to his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder. When we have worshipped, we shall come again to you. And then the interesting thing is, the first time the word worship is used in the Bible, it's in 22.
Interesting.
And so where the worship is connected, it's connected with the burnt offering. And so
Mm-hmm.
anywhere else you see worship in the Bible, it usually has to do with a meal, like in the sacrifices, or it's just obeisance, someone bowing in reverence to someone else that's higher in authority. But worship is linked with making a meal with the Father, which is the sacrificial system.
And then I think it's interesting that Abraham says, the boy and I are going to go over there and worship and come back to you. Like,
Yeah, he knew that God was going to provide himself a sacrifice. And that's why I
even
kind of
Abraham knew they, like no matter what, they were both coming back.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why he said, what he said, God will prepare for himself a sacrifice. When, Isaac was like, I see what's going on here. And he's like, no, don't worry. He will provide a sacrifice, And then that's why he also said, we will be back, not I will return.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even if Abraham did kill Isaac, Abraham knows that God has the power to resurrect. Like he's not the
Oh,
God of the dead, he's the God of the living.
touche.
It
Yeah.
You
says
know,
that.
so like no matter what happens, I know that this is God's problem and he's going to take care of it.
Yeah, Hebrews 11:19 says that. It says, accounting that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him as a figure. So if you read that 2 verses up, it says, by faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, that in Isaac shall thy seed be called, accounting that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure.
Hmm. And that was where at again? I'm sorry, Hebrews 11.
Hebrews 11:17 through 19.
Yeah, like you pointed out here, he already told Abraham too that Isaac was going to be, the the seeds coming from him for many nations. So why would God, sacrifice him? At least without bringing him back from the dead, if that's what was going to happen.
Yeah,
I
according
mean,
to
you do have to put seeds into the earth, and putting something into the earth is kind of a symbolic thing of death.
Hmm.
and like if we, I'm still testing Jubilees, but if we take this into account, it was pretty much to put Mastema to shame too. Also, it says, Abraham, Abraham, and he was terrified and said, behold, here I am. And I said unto him, lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything to him. For now I have shown that thou fearest the Lord, and hast not withheld thy son, thy firstborn son, from me. And the prince Mastema was put to shame. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and beheld a ram caught by his horns. And then the other interesting thing is Mount Moriah, where this account is taking place. In the book of Jubilees, it's actually called Mount Sion.
Huh.
Very
Interesting.
And,
interesting.
and then I think Mount Moriah, depending on how the Romans kind of like moved names and moved like places around, it's supposed to be close to Jerusalem, which is near Golgotha. Or it could be the same mount that Yeshua was crucified at. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure which mountain it is. I was always curious if it was the same spot that the Covenant of Pieces was made.
And Genesis 15. Wait, is that 15?
Yeah.
Yeah. 15.
Yeah, I guess that's all I got.
I had something on 18,
Genesis chapter
22,
20, 22,
22,
18.
18. Mm-hmm. So it says, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed because you have obeyed my voice. So if
Well, that just means believe in Jesus, obviously.
well, I had a thought on that the other day. So if essentially it was going to be through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, through that seed. We wonder how all the nations are going to be blessed through that. And it hit me the other day as Israel got sent out, got basically vomited out of the land and got divorced and got sent out into the rest of the nation, they have married in to all nations.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so through that, all nations now are blessed. They married into Esau.
Yeah.
And so both seeds of Abraham, they've married into Ishmael, they've married into Esau. Both seeds have been blessed, both of Abraham's seeds.
Yep. And yeah, because Ephraim was given this blessing from uh, Jacob, and then Ephraim is given the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom whenever they split, and then yeah, they're, you know, like you said, cast off into all of the nations of the earth. And then I'm reading the Bible in Basic English for verse 17, and that let your seed possess the gate of their enemies. The Bible in Basic English says, and your seed will take the land of those who are against them. You know, so like if you possess the gate to the city, then you know you've taken the city; it's yours.
Oh yeah, I don't have the BBE on here yet.
Yeah, and you're still in verse 18, not 17.
Oh, anyways, yeah.
But yeah. Okay,
All
now
right.
I'm done.
Well, all right. Let me pull up the page and we can move on to the prophets portion. 2 Kings 4, 1 through 37.
Okay, real quick, I wanted to read something at the end of chapter 18 that had to do with the festival.
Is this
It
Genesis or
says
Jubilees?
in Jubilees, connecting to Genesis 22. It
Gotcha.
says, Abraham went to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt by the well of the oath, and he celebrated this festival every year, 7 days with joy. And he called it the festival of the Lord, according to the 7 days during which he went and returned in peace. And accordingly has it been ordained and written on the heavenly tablets regarding Israel and its seed, that they should observe this festival 7 days with the joy of festival. So, I mean, if this book's true, then it gives us the very first time Passover and unleavened bread, where it came, like where the first people that celebrated it on the earth would have been Abraham.
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and move on to 2 Kings chapter 4, and that was going through what now again? Verse 37. A certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elisha, saying, your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared Yahuwah, and the lender has come to take my 2 sons and to be his slaves. And Elisha said to her, what should I do for you? Inform me. What do you have in the house? And she said, your female servant has none at all in the house except a pot of oil. And he said, go borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels. Do not get a few. And when you have come in, you shall shut the door behind you and your sons. Then pour it into all these vessels and set aside the filled ones. And she went from him and shut the door behind her and her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured it out. And it came to be, when the vessels were filled, that she said to her son, bring me another vessel. But he said to her, there is not another vessel, and the oil ceased. So she went and informed the man of Elohim, and he said, go, sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest. And it came to be on a day that Elisha went to Shunem, where there is a prominent woman, and she took hold of him to eat some food. And it came to be, as often as he passed by, that he turned in there to eat some food. And she said to her husband, Look, I know that this is a set-apart man of Elohim who passes by us continually. Please let us make a small upper room on the wall, and let us put a bed for him there, and a table, and a chair, and a lampstand. And it shall be, whenever he comes to us, let him turn in there. And it came to be on a day that he came there, and he turned into the upper room and lay down there. And he said to Gehazi, his servant, Call this Shunammite woman. So he called her, and she stood before him. And he said to him, Please say to her, Look, you have gone to all this trouble for us. What is there to be done for you? Should I speak on your behalf to the sovereign or the commander of the army? And she answered, I am dwelling among my own people. And he said, What then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, Well, she has no son, and her husband is old. And he said, Call her. So he called her, and she stood in the doorway. And he said, About this appointed time next year you shall embrace a son. And she said, No, my master, man of Elohim, do not lie to your female servant. And the woman conceived, and bore a son when the appointed time had come, of which Elisha had spoken to her. And the child grew, and it came to be on a day that he went out to his father, to the reapers. And he said to his father, my head, and said to the servant, Take him to his mother. And he said to his servant, Take him to his mother. So he took him, and brought him to his mother, and sat on her knees till noon, and died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of Elohim, and shut the door on him, and went out. And she called to her husband, and said, Please send me one of the young men and one of the donkeys, so that I hurry to the man of Elohim and return. And he said, Why are you going to him today? It is neither the new moon nor the Sabbath. And she said, It is well. And she saddled the donkey, and said to her servant, Drive and go. Do not slow down, except I speak to you. And she went and came to the man of Elohim at Mount Carmel. And it came to be, when the man of Elohim saw her at a distance, that he said to his servant Gehazi, See the Shunammite woman. Please run now to meet her, and say to her, Is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with the child? And she answered, It is well. And she came to the man of Elohim at the hill, and she took hold of him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to push her away. But the man of Elohim said, Leave her alone, for her being is bitter in her, and Yahuwah has hidden it from me, and has not revealed it to me. And she said, Did I ask a son of my master? Did I not say, Do not deceive me? And he said to Gehazi, Gird up your loins, take my staff in your hand, and go. When you meet anyone, do not greet him, and when anyone greets you, do not answer him. And you shall lay my staff on the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, As Yahuwah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you. And he rose and followed her. And Gehazi went on ahead of them, and laid the staff on the face of the child. But there was no voice, and there was no hearing. So he went back to him, and reported to him, saying, The child has not awakened. And Elisha came into the house, and saw the child was dead, lying on his bed. And he went in, and shut the door behind the two of them, and prayed to Yahuwah. And he went up and lay on the child. And he went up and lay on the child, and put his mouth on his mouth, and his eyes on his eyes, and his hands on his hands, and stretched himself out on the child, and the flesh of the child became warm. And he returned and walked back and forth in the house, then went up and stretched himself out on him. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. And he called Gehazi and said, Call this Shunammite. So he called her, and she came into him and said, Pick up your son. Then she went and fell at his feet, and bowed herself to the ground, and picked up her son, and went out.
So yeah, this is definitely one of my least studied subjects or books.
Yeah, that's I think the first time I've ever read through that
It,
that I recall.
yeah, it's a little difficult to follow, but it kind of reminds me of the women around Jesus, like laying on his feet and stuff like that. It kind
Hmm.
of has the same sort of language.
Yeah.
Um, and even like the resurrection of a kid. Um, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Donna, Kaylee, do you have any thoughts or questions or anything thought provoking on Second Kings chapter 4 here?
I do real quick. So there's only 4 or 5, and I forget the exact number, times in the entire Bible where it talks about an older woman conceiving. Because I believe we're told, and I could be completely wrong. I believe we're told in elsewhere in Scripture, it's the father who opens wombs and closes wombs. So she has been blessed in her old age, and at this time it was a reproach for a woman not to have a child. It's completely different than it is nowadays. In Jasher, it talks about forget her name, where the angels had given, or the men at the time did not like women um, to be pregnant. They liked their young figures, and so they actually gave them um, potions to drink that would prevent them from becoming pregnant. And one of these, Zillah, one of these women partook of that. Her name was Zillah, and in later years she repented of that, and the father opened her womb, and one of her children was Tubal Cain, and I forget um, what the other child. She had 2 children, one male, one female, I believe. So it was just I had. It's been a while since I had read Second Kings, and I had forgotten about the Shunammite woman. Elizabeth is one of them. Um, Obviously, we just read Sarah, and then not Samson. Samuel's mother was also older. But let's see, Elizabeth probably was in her 40s because her husband was still um, in the priestly duties, which ended at when he was 50. So just a thought.
Yeah, it's like two examples of barren women or old women having children. And I don't know if there's any more cases of this in the Bible.
Uh, Elizabeth
Oh,
and
yeah, that's right. That's
and
right.
Samuel's mother also were older. Now I don't know if they were advanced in age, and then if you add Jasher, which whether it's whatever it is, then you have Zillah in Jasher. But we don't have. I don't think there's an actual age of those. We can imply how old Elizabeth was, but we don't know exactly how old. So John the Baptist's mother. And I find that really interesting in that the father opens the wombs of these older women for significant children. And it's almost like he's saying, I'm showing you a miracle, and I'm using this child. I've got a specific reason and purpose for this child um, to give to these older women. I just find that really interesting and fascinating.
There's got to be something behind that we're not seeing. A missing puzzle piece.
I agree.
Well, all these women usually typically were considered righteous. Like Elizabeth, she's called righteous. And in the book of Jubilees, Sarah and Rebecca are called considered righteous. I don't know about Hannah. Um, but if you think about like epigenetics and just the thought of like, people that are righteous that are following God's law, it could maybe genetically get passed down to their children. And then they're also going to be in the life with the righteous parents, which will also be like an environmental raising along with the epigenetic type of predisposition to maybe follow God and not have those markers on that already make them prone to certain sin.
That's that's a that's a really interesting thought, Kaylee, because these women, have had time to walk out that righteousness, and we think about genetics, just genetics. Generally, for an older woman, that's not a good thing for a child. A child that is born to older women generally don't. Those children don't fare well. But it's like what you're saying. The father is overriding that through their righteousness. But maybe it's had time to heal any genetic predisposition that they may have had. That maybe a sin marker on genetics.
Yeah, and I
Which
mean
has
sin,
actually been shown to exist.
the curse of the law is sin and death. And so I wonder if people that are more righteous throughout their walk, throughout their lifespan, um, I mean, it says that if you honor your parents, it will go well for you and you'll have a longer lifespan. Like I know it says that specifically, but I also wonder if you keep sin out of your life, as long as something doesn't come up against you, then maybe your lifespan is actually a little bit longer than the average person's because you don't have that, the sin that equals death.
Exactly. I was about to say, yes, sin equals death, so that would only make sense. The next part of the portion studies today is Luke chapter 1, 26 through like 36 or something to that effect. We'll go ahead and jump into it. And in the 6th month of the messenger, Gabriel was sent by Elohim to a city of Galil named Nazareth, to a maiden engaged to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David, and the maiden's name was Miriam. And the messenger coming to her said, "Greetings, favored one. The master is with you. Blessed are you among women." But she was greatly disturbed at his word and wondered what kind of greeting this was. And the messenger said to her, "Do not be afraid, Miriam, for you have found favor with Elohim. And see, you shall conceive in your womb, and shall give birth to a son, and call his name Yeshua. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Most High, and Yahuwah Elohim shall give him to the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and there shall be no end to his reign." And Miriam said to the messenger, "How shall this be, since I do not know a man?" And the messenger answering said to her, "The set apart spirit shall come upon you, and the power of the Most High shall overshadow you. And for that reason the set apart one born of you shall be called Son of Elohim. And see, Elisheba, your relative, she has also conceived a son in her old age. And this is now the 6th moon to her who was called barren. Because with Elohim no matter shall be impossible." And Miriam said, "See, the female servant of Yahuwah, let it be to me according to your word." And the messenger went away from her. So there's another example of an older woman conceiving a son in her old age, Elisheba.
Yeah, that's Elizabeth, John the Baptist's mother.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Derp. Yep, I see that now. See this? Elizabeth. 24, 36 through 53. Ready to move on into Luke 24? Let's do it. And as they were saying this, Yeshua himself stood in the midst of them and said to them, "Peace to you." And being startled and frightened, they thought they had seen a spirit. And he said to them, "Why are you troubled? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? See my hands and my feet, that it is I myself? Handle me and see, for a spirit does not have flesh and bones as you see I have." And saying this, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they were still not believing for joy and marveling, he said to them, "Have you any food here?" And they gave him a piece of broiled fish and some honeycomb. And taking it, he ate it in their presence. And he said to them, "These are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all have to be filled that were written in the Torah of Moshe and the prophets and the Tehillim concerning me." Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures. And he said to them, "Thus it has been written, and so it was necessary for the Messiah to suffer and to rise again from the dead the third day, and that repentance and forgiveness of sins should be proclaimed in his name to all the nations, beginning at Jerusalem. And you are witnesses of these matters. And see, I am sending the promise of my Father upon you, but you are to remain in the city of Jerusalem until you are clothed with the power from on high." And he led them out as far as Bethania, and lifting up his hands and blessed them. And it came to be, while he was blessing them, that he was parted from them and was taken up into the heaven. And they, having bowed down to him, returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and were continually in the set apart place, praising and blessing Elohim. Amen. Would we do the same if he showed up out of nowhere? Like, would we believe him? Would we actually, have to go and touch him and verify that it's his flesh?
I'm not gonna lie. I would probably be that doubting Thomas. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be skeptic too. But would they? I mean, it's not like they had not seen him that long ago. Yeah, they watched him crucified, but I don't know. He did tell them it was going to happen.
I just find it interesting how he's explaining to them, that a spirit doesn't have a body like his, where his body is more superior than, even the angels,
Yeah.
because he's made out of a physics that's like water and spirit. And spirits, are the disembodied spirits that they don't even have a body. And they thirst. The book of Enoch says that they constantly thirst and hunger.
Interesting. I thought it was interesting that he said, "But you are to remain in the city of Jerusalem until you are clothed with power from on high." And that's speaking generally of the um, Pentecost, Shavuot, but that was also the day of the marriage covenant in the Old Testament. And part of the marriage covenant in the New Testament is that you have to be, you know, you have to have the wedding clothes on. And so he's basically telling them, hey, you need to stay at the wedding, or stay at the at Jerusalem until you get the wedding clothes, I guess, is how I'm taking that. Um, and then yeah, they worshipped him in Jerusalem and were continually in the temple praising and blessing God. And this is, all after Jesus, so why are they at the temple still? The temple was destroyed. Not necessarily destroyed, but the veil got ripped, and I want to say like one part of the temple was cracked or something, and they had to do sacrifices somewhere else. But yeah, it's so much stuff going on after the death of Jesus, and yeah.
I have a thought on that, Jeremy, on why would they be at the temple? So their Messiah just died, just were crucified. So they're probably in shock. And just think about, like, if there's a natural disaster, what do people do? They go about back to wherever, like if they had a home or something like that that was destroyed, you go back and you're just wandering around because you don't know what to do. You're just like, I don't even begin to know what to do. And so their world, even though he told them what was getting ready to happen, the rug just got pulled out from under their world. And I know for myself, when that happened to me, one of the first things I wanted to do was go back home where there was familiarity, so that it sort of kind of grounds you again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking about it from a human condition. Why would you do that? And that's just a thought.
Right.
Mine was kind of a sarcastic question, because I don't.
Sorry, I missed it.
I don't think that
I missed the
sacrifices
sarcasm.
or worshiping at the temple ended with Jesus. So yeah, I was mainly being sarcastic, but yeah.
What was that last pairing? What was the chapter on that and page?
Luke 24.
Okay.
I can see your mouth.
Unless you're talking about Peter, the one that we're
No.
going to next. Okay.
The other one.
I'm back with your eyes. The same color of your eyes.
Going to go ahead and read through these several last verses here, and then that will conclude the verse reads, and then we can midrash and trail off anywhere from there. For if Elohim did not spare the messengers who sinned, but sent them to Tartarus and delivered them into the chains of darkness to be kept for judgment. It did not spare the world of old, but preserved Noah, a proclaimer of righteousness, and seven others. And seven others bringing in the flood on the world of the wicked, and having reduced to ashes the cities of Sodom and Amorah, condemned them to destruction, having made them an example to those who afterward would live wickedly, and rescued righteous Lot, who was oppressed with the indecent behavior of the lawless. For day after day, that righteous man dwelling among them tortured his righteous being by seeing and hearing their lawless works. Then Yahuwah knows how to rescue the reverent ones from trial and to keep the unrighteous unto the day of judgment to be punished. And most of all, those walking after the flesh in filthy lust and despising authority, bold, headstrong, speaking evil of esteemed ones, whereas messengers who are greater in strength and power do not bring a slanderous accusation against them before the master. So take note of that, Deezer.
Is that the end of it?
Yes, verse 11. Let me triple check, though. Yep. 2 Peter 2, 4 through 11. All right. Anybody got anything they want to talk about or We could even veer off a different direction from the portions, of course. Oh, come on, guys. It's too quiet.
What verse did you stop at?
11.
Gotcha. I don't know, I think verse 12 is really nice. It says, "But these, like natural, unreasoning beasts, having been born to be caught and destroyed, blaspheme that which they do not know, and shall be destroyed in their destruction."
Yeah, I would have included that in the portion.
I think this just goes to point out the Father, if whoever he chooses is righteous, and he is going to rescue those that he has set apart, set aside. That in the days of destruction, in the days of calamity, he is going to protect them. He removes them. Lot was in the city, he was part of that whole system. He'd moved into town. He was sitting at the gate as an elder, but yet, he was still part of the redeemed, and he went and physically removed him from that city.
Yeah.
So I think it's a word of encouragement that if you're his, he's going to protect you.
I like that.
Definitely.
I like that verse 8 where it says, "Day after day that righteous man dwelling among them tortured his righteous being by seeing and hearing their lawless deeds, lawless works."
And how many of us are tortured by what we see around us?
Ooh. That's
That
that's an
do
amen
we,
or an oh me,
well, yeah, I
as
mean, do
Steve
we
would
weep
say.
and cry for them, for that?
I do.
I
I
do.
have. Yeah. I mean, in fact, sometimes I wonder if it's part of the main reason why I'm prone to depression.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a good point in that we see what we can't fix. But I think it says something, though, Tabby, about the change in our hearts and righteousness, in that we would weep and mourn for others who aren't seeing it, because we know what's going to happen and we don't want that for them.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me personally. I'm not gonna lie. I remember back in it must have been like 2000 or something like that, because I was in college and I was attending the Baptist college here in town. And this particular class was a well, I can't remember exactly, but it was a Bible class. Anyhow, I had seen on the news where people were getting on I mean, they were videotaping themselves, like denouncing Jesus and things like that, like openly. And I don't know, I guess I hadn't been exposed to atheist as much at that point in my life. But anyway, it really bothered me so much that in that college class I mentioned it, thinking that it was a safe place to say something like that. But there was people in the class that were like, well, they have the right to do so. I was like, it's not that they don't have the right to do so, but what are they doing to their souls by doing this? But it bothered me deeply, and other people in the class were just oblivious to it. So I mean, I don't know.
I really want to commend you because I think that says something about your heart, that you cared that deeply, and you cared that deeply by Messiah, about our King. And I probably would have been one of those people going, well, they have the right to do that, because that's where I used to be. So I just really want to encourage you on that. That's a soft heart.
Thank you.
Good stuff, guys.
Yep, I'm trying to find a Book of Jubilees for eSword, but I'm just not finding it. So
Yeah.
I think if you
I'm probably not gonna find one. There's like, was it
you can make them.
Sacred Text or something like that, maybe? Or there's a couple of websites.
sacredtext.org or .com, one of the two.
Because actually, what you can do is you can take text files and use some eSword tools and make your own eSword Bible files. So I may play around with that.
Awesome.
Nice.
Can you? Does it like add the? Does it add like any of the Strongs or anything with that?
I mean, I'm sure if we manually did that to the text, we could import them with Strongs, but I don't know at what level and how much programming and macro we would have to put into it. If I can just get a Bible imported in there with the correct macro, we'd be doing something pretty good.
Anything else new and exciting? Did everybody get snow today?
In 2 Peter 2:11, I don't really think they're connected, but I just found it interesting where it says, and especially those who indulge the flesh in its corrupt desires and despise authority, daring self-willed, they do not tremble when they revile angelic magistrates. Magistries. Whereas angels who are greater in might and power do not bring a reviling judgment against them before Yahweh. But in Revelation, I think it's 5. One second, let me find it. 5:8. They do bring forth to God the prayers of the saints. It says, when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. So I just thought that was interesting. So they don't take judgment against the unrighteous before Yahweh, but they do take the prayers of the saints before Yahweh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, even whenever the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were trying to steal the angels from Lot, he wasn't like, oh, filthy sodomites, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, he still, didn't bring a slanderous accusation against them. He just was like, hey, how about we do it this way instead? I don't know. Yeah, it's wild. Whereas they were, basically saying, how dare you sojourn in our city and then judge us? Like they were just, yeah. Uh, good catch, Kaylee. I was reading that. I wasn't gonna say anything, but since you brought it up, I figured I'd jump in there. That is a good one. I like that.
I think everyone's nervous about being on YouTube. Donna.
Oh man, I was on a stream last night up until this morning, and it went okay for a little while, and then the host like got into the law and just started going off, and it got pretty heated. It was not pretty, but yeah, I don't know.
Was that with Jamie and Mike involved?
Yeah, I mean, it was like they were there, but it wasn't because of them, I guess.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like yeah. I was really hoping Mike was gonna be here, actually.
Me too. He would have filled in some nice gaps there pretty nicely for us.
Yeah, but he was probably up all night with me, so that may be why. I asked him if he was gonna be able to make it, and he's like, "Well, I'm still
I'm
awake."
actually sorry, Jeremy.
No, go ahead, Donna.
No, I'm actually in another group that reads online on YouTube. It's just I wasn't prepared
gotcha.
for it.
Gotcha. But yeah,
And our
I was actually trying to be a little sly and get somebody around Donna's age in here who's single.
Oh, I see.
You don't have to put that on YouTube, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's something.
That's
a good example of.
I'm just being honest. I got to thinking about it, and I was like, man, this guy's, he's kind of up there.
I appreciate you looking out for me, though, Jeremy. I appreciate your heart.
Either way, he'd be a good addition to the panel chat, and then if something did come out of it, I think it'd be cool. But if not, no matter.
As I was trying to say, that's a good example of what not to bring up on YouTube, everybody.
This is true.
But yeah, had some good talks. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, last night was great. Meeting with Jamie and Mike. It was really good discussion.
Yeah, I love how serious they take the scriptures. Whenever they read something, they don't just brush it off. And like, Jamie's used to getting interrupted every 5 seconds and not being able to finish a thought and all that good stuff. And Mike and I have hung out a couple times, and he's like, no, like, take all the time you need. Like, we're not going to interrupt you. We're actually interested to hear what it is you have to say. Like, we like to let the idea roll around in our brains a little while before we make a decision on it.
I mean, just because you take a sip of wine doesn't mean you got to swallow. You can spit it out.
Right. Just got to swirl it around a little bit, see if you like the taste.
So is that a guys only chat that you guys do at night?
No, we mentioned it in the group chat that we were going to be hanging out, and Jeremy shared the StreamYard link. Did you not get it? I mean, I know there's a lot of messages coming through lately.
Right. Yeah.
No, I saw it, but it, like I didn't know if that was going to be like videoed or like being broadcast, and that was late at night, and I didn't want to be on StreamYard at in my jammies.
Oh, you don't have to do the video if you don't want to.
And none of us had our cameras on, so we were just
I don't have a camera. But yeah, no, I've just met a couple people on YouTube, and they get panels going, and it's pretty much just like open panel discussion. It just happens to be mostly men. Actually,
well,
I'm
that's
not sure
good because you guys need to have your time together too.
Yeah, but I mean, you have interesting opinions as well. I mean, granted, like, this is really like open discussion because like some of them are SDA, some of them are Sunday churches, and so yeah, like we caught a lot of flack last night, but for the most part, It's all right.
I spent 30 something years in a Sunday church and on staff, so I guess sometimes I do have a different opinion, different look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it when there's different thoughts and inputs and different lenses and everyone contributing their, view on things. It really livens up the conversation. Otherwise, it can get pretty stale quick.
Right. Yeah,
Agreed.
for sure. Yeah, Mike watches Michael Rood, so he's just got different like stuff I haven't heard of. It's different. Like the Mark 7, whenever Jesus said it's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you, it's what comes out of your body that defiles you or makes you unclean. Now, he was basically telling the Pharisees, hey, you guys have semen on you and you're unclean. Like what you're eating has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Well, why would he get that perspective? That's an interesting perspective.
Well, that's what it means. Like the defiled is unclean, and he's saying, it's not the food that you put into your mouth, but it's what comes out of your body. And
Oh, that's what that means to be defiled?
yeah, it means unclean.
Yeah,
No,
anytime a man emits anything that it touches or like clothing, it's unclean until it's washed.
Yeah.
well, the same thing for a female.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm. But yeah, he was basically just
Okay.
saying, the food is not what defiles you. It's the emissions of your body that defile you. And I think he was kind of taking a quick jab at him and making their face turn red before he's like, oh, well, I actually meant that, the food goes through your stomach and, gets purged or whatever. Yeah, but I had never caught it before.
What he was really saying there is you can eat whatever you want. Pig is now food. Forget what I said earlier in the book.
Yeah,
I changed it just now.
yeah, for realsies.
And that was sarcasm for
I
anyone
started to
that
say that was
doesn't know.
sarcasm, was it not, Dustin?
Uh, yeah.
I caught that sarcasm. Jeremy's more deadpan. I don't catch his.
Right, yeah. Got that, like, British dry humor. Because, yeah, let me read it in the King James. There is nothing from outside a man that entering him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, not out of his mouth, those are they that defile him. And then he goes on.
It's
Throw it up
Mark.
on the screen there for us, buddy.
Right? Yeah, I guess I could.
It's Mark what?
7, 15. Right, there it is.
There.
I don't know. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
You
maybe
could,
maybe just
unless
I
you
can't
have
see it.
you can click on the tile and show it if you need to, or you can just look at your screen where you're sharing it from.
Right. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it says there's nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him. And that defile is koinu, to
I
make
don't know how to say
profane,
that.
ceremonial, common, defile, pollute, unclean. And so yeah, it's just saying unclean. But yeah, it doesn't say what comes out of his mouth. It says what comes out of his body. And then he goes on to explain it. I guess it's the man the whole time. I thought he went into talking about the mouth later, but maybe not.
Before all this, in 7, in 5 it says, and the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, why do your disciples not walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat their bread with impure hands? Because they didn't wash their hands. I'm sure everybody knew that though.
Oh, right, yeah. Trying to think of something else interesting he said the other day too that was caught me by surprise. But I don't remember. Sorry.
Well, you can think, if you think of it, you can jump in there.
Yeah, because it's like Leviticus 13, I think. Leprosy, nope. 14, 15, there we go. So yeah, I don't know if he was calling him out on mixing up Leviticus 11 and Leviticus 15. Oh, and then that heart circumcision. Gotta look out for that. I don't know, I think I'm out of ideas though. It's gonna be dead air.
Gotcha. Uh-oh. Which is worse, dead air or train wrecks? Dead air.
Dumpster fires.
Actually, guys, I gonna have to get lunch and get ready and doing that concert later on in Willow Springs with the country music band.
Okie doke.
What concert?
How's everybody's kiddos doing? They still sick and getting over it, or?
Evie is still coughing pretty bad. I think she's worse today than she has been the past couple of days. So I don't know if she never really got over what she had last week or if it's something else.
Right. Yeah, you can still coughing too.
This is body detox season.
Right.
But don't let me keep you guys from going on. But I want to go ahead and get on out of here. Thanks,
What
guys.
concert? What concert?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm playing at the Star Theater in Willow Springs tonight with the Rhubarb Jam Band. Me and Jake Cummings with Ed and Wendy Klein and Rod Cash. We're just playing old country songs.
With your new bass?
Where? The
Yes,
Star
with-
Theater?
Yeah, downtown Willow Springs.
Interesting.
How fun.
Are you gonna play your new single?
Yes, my new single is going to be performed live for the first time tonight.
Shovels and Hoes?
That's my new rap song, Shovels and Hoes.
Gotcha.
You'll have to record it and play it back for us.
It's not really a song. Oh, you're talking about the concert? or this new song, or both?
Made me
Any
think of
content
Rosetta.
you can give us.
Shovels, hoes, and concubines.
Nope, it's shovels and hoes and wheelbarrows. I think that's going to be the name of the album.
The name of the album is Farm Life. Name of the song's got, hose in it somewhere and shovels.
You're taking it too far, dude.
Okay, guys. Well, if after lunch and stuff you guys are still on, I'll probably jump back in.
Okie doke.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See you.
Bye.
Shalom.
Shalom.
So, does that mean we can invade Donna's Bible reading YouTube channels, or is
Absolutely.
it women only?
Oh no, it's not mine.
Oh, okay.
You come in the chat. Actually,
okay.
any of you can come in and read if you want, with
Put us on the
forewarning.
spot.
Yeah, I can put you all on the spot. I'll send you the link to it, and you can see it. And we've read through the entire. It's taken us 2 years, I guess. We've read through the entire Bible, the Apocrypha, Pseudepigrapha. We're down to 2 books. We're halfway through Jasher, and then we've got Jubilees to read through, and we're done. And then we'll start back over.
Wow, that's impressive.
We've had some interesting insights. It's been good. I mean, it's great to read, the Torah portions and get your feet back under you when you come out of, the churches and stuff. But then we lose, if we don't stay in the entire word, you lose context.
Are you guys testing all the books? Are you just reading through them, or?
We're just reading through them.
Gotcha.
Some of them, as far as I'm concerned, it's not for me to say what's scripture or not. Some of them that you get a sense that this possibly could have been part of scripture, possibly not. If nothing else, they're great commentaries and, fill-ins. Giving you the rest of the story, so to speak.
Right.
So I don't feel like I need to stand in the Council of Laodicea or Nicaea and say
Gotcha.
this is scripture and it is not.
Right.
How many people is in that group?
Most of the time there's just like three of us reading, sometimes up to 5. It's a really small group. There's not many in chat. Like today, there was 11 in chat, I guess. So it's really small. It's intimate. We're in there about an hour and a half, not more than 2 hours, depending on, what we're reading. We read 5 chapters at a time.
Gotcha.
Trying to get through it all. So
That's cool.
I have considered starting a women's focused channel of like a Titus 2 woman type thing. Less than 20 minutes, not really teaching, more of the research type position of here's what I see, here's what's in scripture, here's any, external resources. Now go search it out. Get your own opinions, your own thought processes.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think a lot of things that we do, we adopt, and we don't know why we did it. We coming out of church, we push back on a lot of things, and then we just come into this walk, and we just accept things. Well, this person or this group is doing this person's doing that, and we don't really dig into where they come. Why are we doing certain things? Why are we not? why have we adopted this particular practice? And then from an elder sister point of view, or a Titus 2 point of view, of being able to minister to younger women. It's a thought, careful thought.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I've debated on doing some short videos on like the common New Testament twisting of scripture that goes against Torah keeping,
Mm,
or just showing people how to use eSword, or something like that. Just teaching people how to learn rather than teaching them what I think to be truth.
exactly. An eSword video would be awesome, because I don't know how to use eSword very well, and it doesn't seem to pull up on my computer real well for some reason. I must not be getting the right version.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love eSword. I mean, most of the people online are trying to use like Bible Hub or Blue Letter Bible or something, and it's
Hmm.
just you're waiting on the internet, and then got to
Hmm.
go back a page, and then
Yeah, I use Blue
sometimes it'll
Letter
only bring up
Bible.
one verse at a time or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I use Blue Letter Bible a lot because it's got the Hebrew Chaldee in it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I've
but
heard I've
on
heard that Blue Letter Bible has its own app and it's offline now. You just have to download everything like eSword. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's clunky. It's
yeah.
not, like you
That's
said, you
that's
only
how I
can
felt
bring
with
up one thing
Logos.
at a
I
time.
tried Logos Bible software and I
Hmm.
couldn't get into that. Of course, it seems like the people that get Logos are more interested in reading books about the Bible than just reading the Bible. So, I don't know.
Hmm. I do like the Blue Letter Bible because it gives you the interlinear,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that is
I
nice.
have I have found some very, very interesting things in that, and then going back and being able to go back to the Paleo Hebrew and break down the word itself,
Uh-huh.
find some really interesting nuggets in there.
Yeah, it's definitely harder to do it in a little bit harder to do it on eSword because you have to actually go and like look at every single letter, you
Right.
know. Like I could do a word search on 2706, but it's going to give me, yeah, see, this is only 2 letters and this one's 3 letters, and that
Hmm.
one's 5 letters, so yeah.
Yeah,
But
and the Hebrew goes down to a two-letter root word.
right,
Sometimes three, but it should go back to a two most times. But not always. You can't always find the root word to it.
right. Yeah, I've been trying to show some people who think, all you got to do is believe, you know. Well, they go with like John 6 or something.
Hmm.
I forget what exactly verse it is. Um.
I
Oh
think
yeah, yeah. This I
be
think it's this one. Nope, that's not it.
to my question to them would be, believe what?
Right, exactly.
Even the demons believe in.
Yeah, and they've got this really weird thing where it's like, oh, that's like a bodily salvation and not a spiritual salvation, and it's like, what?
Hmm.
There's no way. But yeah, they want to quote this. All you got to do is believe Greek 40. The Greek 4100, but it's literally the exact same as uh, John 3:16, which
Hmm.
everybody knows. It's still believeth G 4100. But then what they don't put together is in John 3:36, it's again believeth that G 4100, but the believeth not is the exact same word only with an A in front of it, you know, like against or opposite. And it's, you know, disbelieve, willfully and perversely disobedient, you know, not obeying, not believing, you know.
Oh, there's a really interesting thing right there that you just popped up. Obey.
Yeah, yes,
Obey what?
belief is the believe and obey is the same thing as like hear and do. You know,
Right.
the Shema.
The Shema, yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, they quote verses like this, oh, all you have to do is believe, and it's like, well, I'm sorry, but even if you aren't going with the A word and sorry,
Apathea.
yeah, and you just go back until you have the root word, you're still with Pytho, and one of the definitions is obey. You know, so even the
Mm-hmm.
4100 believe is still has the root of obey. And I tried to show these people, and they don't want to look at it. You know, they're just, oh, it's just belief, it's just belief. And then they get mad whenever, you know, there's somebody that's extreme hyper grace that's like, oh, you know, as long as you believe, you can become a Satanist later in life, and you're still saved because you at one point believed in your life, you know. And it's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you know, they take it and run with it, and you know, if it is in fact true that all you have to do is believe, then, you know, those people, the hyper grace guys are correct, but then the people in the middle want to get mad at you for saying, oh, you have to obey, but then they don't believe the hyper grace guys, and it's just wild, you know, just mental gymnastics, mental gymnastics.
Well, like what you just said, they take it and run with it because they don't want to accept the fact that there is other things that you have to do. It's not just oh, I can just go, my sins are covered. What that's is it not Marcion, but who is it that believes that we got to sin more for more grace?
Oh yeah, yeah. I forget who that is, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Kaylee, do you know who that is?
No.
Okay.
That's
I
great.
figured she would.
That's good stuff.
Don't forget to check out the polls today. I put a new poll in play there.
Right. That's what I was checking out.
I don't even. How do you see it? Does it just pop up?
Yeah, I had to go to the open chat, and then you gotta click on the poll section.
Okay, so if you didn't go there, you wouldn't know.
Right. Well, it like made a sound, and it popped up, you know, new poll or something.
Yeah, I was just messing with it. That's kind of a cool little feature there. You had several people.
Right.
Probably once this meet is over, it's gone, right? It won't be on the next meeting.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, because I think the room like stays open. It's the same link every time. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
thought
I'm
that's
not
what he
sure.
did.
Yeah, I'm not
What
sure.
poll? What poll?
Oh,
Oh, it's just a joke, but
yeah,
I was
Oh,
just checking out the.
it's
It's
in
like you can answer
the
it
Jitsi
however you
chat.
want.
You
uh,
guys are terrible. Just
oh.
terrible.
Well, what are you
you're
doing
supposed
here?
to be busy doing stuff.
Hey,
Yeah,
you
you
put me
left.
in there? Oh, okay.
Don't worry, Donna. If you say no, he doesn't know who said no. It's a poll. No, I don't know if he does or not.
Yeah, it shows me who says what.
Oh, that's messed up.
No, I don't know. I'm just kidding.
I can change my vote right now for you jumping on here. No, I'm going back to no now. Look at that. It's 3. You got 1 for I guess. No, you're 2 and 2 right now.
You can click on show details, and it will tell you who voted what.
Oof.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, your wife voted no.
She is very supportive. Very supportive, she is.
That's a very
Who's the
supportive and
blank
loving wife,
one right there? It doesn't have a name. Is that you voting for yourself?
right?
At least I didn't say absolutely not.
Oh yeah, I did it wrong. This poll's going to be very shifty.
I love the
It
three
is.
options. Not one of them is a good option.
A prophet is never
I know.
recognized in his hometown, so
Who
you got
created
that
the
going for you.
poll? Who created the
I
poll?
did. I did. I was just playing with it.
Uh-huh.
I was actually just gonna do no and no, and I was like, well, I don't want Dustin to be upset, so I guess I'll put I guess on there.
My pennies are already in a wad, so you know.
It's great.
That's pretty cool though. If you had a lot of people like, and you were trying to, get an opinion,
Yeah,
just to take a poll.
how many can we get in the Jitsi call?
We looked at how much was it? Hold on, I'll tell you again. It was a lot.
More than
StreamYard
we'd
is,
ever want in a room.
yeah, StreamYard is like
It was at
6.
least like 40 to 60 or something like that.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
And if it's that many, I don't know that I'd want to be involved. There better be like breakout rooms and people
Yeah.
like diving into different places and different, rooms, if you will.
Yeah.
'Cause even having like 6 or 8, I think we had
75.
I think we had 9 last night, and there was several times where it was like I didn't say anything for like 20 minutes. So yeah, it can get pretty full with just a couple of people, depending on the topic and whatnot.
Jitsi says 75, but recommends a maximum of 35 participants per meeting.
I bet.
35 is even a bit much in my book, but
Yeah. Unless you got a bunch of listeners,
Well, listeners can go to Jeremiah's YouTube stream.
That is true.
Oh, you aren't joking about that?
Yeah, I'm really, yeah, you're live.
Oh. Oh.
There's nobody
You're welcome.
watching. Yeah, there's nobody watching or anything, but
Yeah.
at least we'll have a record. I really thought Mike was going to come, but yeah, we all stayed up pretty late, so
Mike
I
was
don't
good
blame
talking
him.
with, very knowledgeable on lots of things, and passionate in a good way.
Yeah, passionate in a good way. Yeah, I was talking to him, and he's just talking about stuff, and I finally I was like, well, how long you been doing this, And he's like, well, only a couple of years. But he was naming off like the teachers in the movement, and I was like, those are people that were way before me, and I've been in here like 8 or 9 years, so you're like at least 10. And he's like, oh no, it's only been a couple years. And then he was like, well, come to think about it, now back in 2012, I'm pretty sure I was telling everybody to look at Torah, and maybe even a couple of years before that. And I was like, yeah, like that's it's 2022. Like if you're talking about 2012, that's definitely 10 years ago. Yeah, he just hadn't even realized it. And poor guy, he's got absolutely no fellowship where he's at. It's literally just him.
Where'd this guy come from?
He's in Omaha, Nebraska.
Is this somebody you picked up online?
Yeah, I just met him in a YouTube chat, and like whenever you're Torah, you can tell if somebody else is or not, just by the comments and the verses that they quote.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. My app went down for a second. Who are you talking about?
My new friend Mike.
Your future boyfriend.
The one that, my boyfriend.
Yeah.
My new YouTube best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just met him on in a chat, and then I actually got to be in a panel with him and talk to him a little bit. And we were on somebody's stream, and they were gonna go to bed, and Mike and I weren't done talking, so we just moved over to my channel, and then we ended up talking for like another 2 hours where it was just me and him. And yeah, just real good chat. Had a great time. And he's been in it for at least 10 years. Pretty knowledgeable, and humble. Like he's not like, oh, this is the way that it has to be seen. He's just like, here's how I see it, or have you noticed this, or what do you think with this verse, But yeah, I mean, we had a real good conversation, just me and him, like 2 hours long, and talking about how we got drawn into the faith and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just a really good time. I assumed he was going to be here, but we all ended up staying up pretty late last night. It was well into the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, that's cool.
I've been trying to shut off electronics by 8:30
gotcha.
because I
He's
stay on the computer all day.
right. Yeah. He does the Paul Neeson stream at like 5 a.m. for
Oh my!
yeah, they have like a prayer session, like read scripture and pray and stuff. I guess it's not really like an interactive chat, it's just people, you know, asking for prayers for certain things.
Now who's
At
Paul?
5 a.m.?
Yeah, yeah.
Who's
Paul Neeson is I think his channel's called The Health Watchman,
Okay.
and he was born Jewish, and I want to say around like the New York area, but yeah, he believes in Jesus, and then I want to say he's a vegetarian, but he still has to. I think he tells people that you know you still have to take a certain amount of meat or something like that. Like you can't get all of the vitamins. I don't know, but anyways, he's just I don't know, a little bit different. But
Well, I've heard the name. I
yeah,
just
he's been
didn't.
around for a long time.
Yeah, I had heard the name. I just didn't remember who he was. Oh, skinny guy.
Yeah, yeah.
What? Yeah, with
He's
long beard.
yep,
Really long. Yeah, I know who that is. Okay.
yeah.
No, I gotta look it up.
He's he definitely looks like a vegetarian, that's for sure.
Yeah, he looks more vegan actually.
Yeah. Or, I don't know the terminology.
Researcher?
He's
Paul
a teacher, isn't he?
Mason?
Paul Neeson.
Yeah, I guess he might be a researcher. I don't know. But yeah,
Dark
I
hair.
think his YouTube channel is called The Health Watchman, but I could be wrong because he may have two channels, like a health channel and a Bible channel. I'm not positive.
I used to watch him when I first started.
Right? Yeah, that was one of the cues that the Mike guy had been in the faith for a while because I haven't really heard of Paul Neeson in a while.
Yeah.
And Monty Judah, and I think he said maybe Bill Cloud, and yeah, there was
I've listened to Bill Cloud.
yeah. I mean, he was talking about people before my time coming into the faith for sure.
Yeah, I've listened to Monty Judah. I don't anymore.
Right? Yeah, I listened to a couple of his videos, but it was just not my cup of tea at the time.
Yeah.
I listened to the more 119
Mm-hmm.
verses up on the screen kind of studying. Which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with him. I have not judged his teachings, but
I've pretty much gotten to where I don't listen to many.
gotcha.
I feel like that we are to, it says, have few are to be called teachers. And the Father is perfectly capable of speaking to us individually. I'd much rather do something like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where we're sort of kind of bouncing off of one another and each person has their thing that they're seeing, more of a personal iron sharpens iron type situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% there. I can't get on the YouTube boat or whatever you want to say. Just can't do it. I can, but it's forced.
Yeah, some people put me to sleep. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I do that enough on my own. I don't need help.
I like being able to control content and ideas and what's being said, but that's just me as the quote unquote leader.
Right?
Yeah, you know.
The
I thought you were going
It's
somewhere.
Dude,
I'm
Brian
thinking
Mark
it's
stuffing my
something.
face
Zuckerberg
full
right
of
there.
food, and Tab's still listening, so I'm still here and just not as involved.
Like you bailed out a while back. I thought
Oh
you
no,
were
I
going.
don't even see. Oh, he's piping it on Tabby. I was like, I don't even
Yeah.
see his name in here.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I roll. I'm hanging out on the
What a
back end.
sneaky
Can't even
Pete.
see
What
me.
a sneaky Pete.
But what's funny is I can turn on your cameras and see you.
No.
Yeah. Sounds like a leader thing to do.
Mhm.
Back to eating.
Not
All right,
Kaylee's,
back
you
to
can't.
eating.
It's got a Band-Aid over it.
She's my kind of girl. I've got masking tape on mine.
Or, yeah,
Yeah.
Kaylee's
About
is
time
like
I
all
meet someone
flashing.
else that does the same thing.
Yep.
Okay,
Mine's
so
just a really thick
I've
layer
been
of
trying to
dust.
connect some things while everybody was talking, and I might butcher this. But
No,
in this
preach it.
book that I read, it
Steve.
talks about how this whole transsexual movement and stuff is actually being run by the spirit of Ishtar. And I looked up this book called The Cultic Calendar and Psychology of Time, Elements of Common Semantics in Explanatory and Astrological Texts of Ancient Mesopotamia. And on page 22,
Did you literally just turn the bathroom into your office?
on page 22 in the month of Tammuz, which is to the Gregorian calendar, it would be June. It says, in the month, well, actually, it says, Duza, on the 10th day of the usual time, you perform the spells for a man to love a man. And on the 21st day, the spells for having a woman, I don't really want to say this out loud. And on the 12th day, the spells of getting rid of the Lilu and Lilith demons. And on the 21st day, at the usual time, you perform the counter spells for making a man love a woman, and it will pay off. The love of man to man, woman's faithfulness, and love spell to the woman. And then it kind of just goes into that. And this is like a Babylonian psychology spell casting astrology kind of thing. And then if you look up, let's see. If you look up the ancient Sumerian corpus of Sumerian literature, it says, and it's talking about Ishtar, which is named Ananu. She says, when I sit in the alehouse, I'm a woman. I am an exuberant young man. So she says, I'm a woman, but she's also a man. And then she says, when I am present at a place of quarreling, I am a woman, a perfect figure. When I sit by the gate of the tavern, I am a prostitute familiar with the penis and the friend of a man and the girlfriend of a woman. And so this is all coming from Sumerian literature. And the interesting thing is in this book, the man ended up kind of showing a connection between the month of Tammuz, which would be our month of June, and near the summer solstice is when all of the first thing that happened in America was in New York. It was Stonewall riots, which was like this gay bar that the police went in to raid. And then there was like an uprising against the police. And that's kind of where the movement of homosexuality started getting its prominence and a lot more media coverage. And that happened on June 29th, 1969. And then it goes into each time like homosexuals got rights, like where it was no longer illegal to be a homosexual in America. It happened on the same date each time. So it was like, I can't remember if it was June 26th or June 29th. And they're like 10 years apart. The first time was in 2003, and then the next was like in 2013. But the guy's trying to show that the spirit of Ishtar is behind this whole movement. And that's going to be kind of like what rises up against marriage and Christian based morals and principles, and showing that it's all connected to an ancient spirit. I thought that was interesting.
That's extremely interesting. And
And
to think that that's in the church as Easter, they're actually helping propagate that.
So I'm trying to find the dates. And I wish I would have had this all prepared. I should have took notes when I read this book.
Yeah,
But I
I mean,
found it interesting, and
you could
there's
really be
sites.
saving us a whole like 5 or 10 minutes of my life right now.
Whatever. But anyways, Ishtar would say things like she is a woman, but when she wants to be, she can be a man. When she's a man, she can be a woman. And then she would have like these parades, and they show in the text what the parades look like, and they look really similar to the pride parades.
Hmm.
And the rainbow is connected to all of this too. There's a text where it
Wow.
talks about her eyes, her iris of her eye was a rainbow.
Interesting.
That's very interesting.
I thought it was interesting because, I mean, if there's like a certain month, like the Babylonian psychology based astronomical thing, like maybe they know certain months or certain days to get together and do certain types of spell boundings against a mass amount of people. And they send out people to kind of help influence it, just like the CIA did with the counterculture movement with, like, Jerry Garcia, and sending out LSD and things. You can really get into the minds of people psychologically. But if you're also doing spells and you have people that understand the psychology, hypnosis, spell casting, incantations, then you can kind of like create a whole movement when people don't even realize that they're actually under a spell.
Well, I think about that too, Kaylee, about a couple of years, 2 years ago, with that was a mass. I'm wondering if that didn't happen as well. I mean, that was that was a psyops.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing is a psyops. But I'm wondering if maybe they didn't do the same thing maybe at a different time, but for a different purpose. But it's
And what's going to happen next year in 2023?
At the end of this guy's book, he talks about his second book, which I haven't read that book. And he talks about how it says in the chapter titled The Plague, I wrote of the Jubilee of abortion. In the Bible, the Jubilee was the year of restoration, restitution, redemption, release, freedom, reversing, and undoing. The Jubilee came once every 50 years. Abortion on demand began in America in the year 1970. Prominent in pioneering abortion on demand was New York. It quickly became the nation's abortion capital. The prophet Jeremiah warned his nation that the shedding of its children's blood would lead to judgment. The death of the little ones would be answered by the death of the generation that had murdered them. One of the ways in which the death would come, according to Jeremiah's prophecy, would be in the form of a plague. The 50th year after New York legalized abortion on demand came to its conclusion in 2020. It was the Jubilean year of abortion's entrance into America. That year, death came to America as it had in ancient times, in the form of a plague. The plague was named COVID-19. Sorry, I'm shaking. I'm outside. It's cold. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that
We
was
can't,
really
we
good.
can't see you shaking. Why?
Well, my voice
Why?
is shaking.
I knew what you meant. It's warm in here. She come back inside.
is she standing? Are you guys still have the snow up there? Ours is about gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
it's there. It's there.
That's really interesting, Callie. I'd like to be interested in reading some more of that, because there's some people that believe this is a jubilee year, that we don't know where we are actually, but that the earth knows.
Mm-hmm.
I've got friends that have talked about. I've got friends that used to plant gardens every year. This year they didn't plant one, or that their gardens didn't produce very well, and that fruit trees that are just naturally grown, they didn't do well. And so the earth itself may be taking a rest, and we don't know exactly what year it is. That's pretty cool.
yeah, I can't remember what book it is, but it's when, the Babylonians came in and took the Israelites into captivity. God says, now the land will rest. Because he makes a distinction saying that they never let the land rest in its seventh year Sabbath.
Yeah.
And that the land spewed them out. So the land like kind of is in conjunction with the judgment when people aren't following his ways. And then he says, now the land will rest.
Well, I had thought on, 2 years ago, Passover, everybody was in their homes. The earth observed Passover.
That's true.
So, it's sort of like he's going to get what he wants. We can either do it voluntarily or involuntarily.
Amen.
Man, did Dustin come back?
He was giving us a tour of the snow for a minute.
I'm here. You cannot get rid of me that easy.
He's there 2 different times. He sneaks off and then he gets to Tabby's name. He comes back with his. Oh, visual. Visual. Are you doing a fake mute or is that real? We cannot hear you nor see anything but a black screen.
Right.
Now
I think we should make him play us some music. He was
just
playing
put all
music
Yeah,
whenever I
there you
joined.
go.
He had his guitar out whenever
I
I
think
joined.
that's a really good idea.
I'm curious up here. It says that this has been live for 3 hours and 46 minutes.
I
That was like
started.
a long time ago.
I started it like way before 11 o'clock doing sound check and everything.
Yeah. And then I've been streaming for almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Because you come on right at 11 o'clock and basically started streaming from what I could tell. So
Yep.
Did you do music first today?
He did like half
Yeah.
a song. Like once I got here, he put it up.
I did 2 songs.
It's disappointing.
I actually didn't even know it was 11 until I came in about 10 minutes late. Kaylee just abandoned me with no warning at all.
Sounds
Wow.
pretty believable.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty believable, isn't it?
That's an excellent helpmeet.
So what song are you gonna play today, Dustin?
What songs did I play today?
What song are you gonna play today?
Oh, future tense.
Besides the one tonight at the country show.
Oh, we'll be doing like Coat of Many Colors, some Patsy Cline, some Merle Haggard, some Johnny Cash.
Oh wow. That sounds cool.
Is it going to be live on the YouTubes?
Kaylee wants me to tell you she can sing Patsy Cline Walking After Midnight really well.
We'll be doing that song.
I'll have her there. What time are you gonna play that one? She wouldn't do it.
I think the show starts till like 6 or so. It should be like after sundown. So if you guys wanted to come and watch, I wouldn't be serving you, if you will.
Right.
I think I'm being summoned to go caving, which I'm not feeling like super up for, but I'm gonna do it anyways.
That sounds cold. What?
Yeah.
Like
It'll be warmer in the cave.
Right. What kind of caving?
Just there's a couple of them that we don't know. One I've never been to, and another one that we think we can go a lot further in that we've never tried to down at my place.
Gotcha. Okay.
Billy's back in town, so there's going to be a lot of
That sounds like
foot trekking.
Right. I heard that one in town got covered up. The one that had a refrigerator over the top of it.
Yeah, I heard that too. Tim actually lives there now, so I'll have to ask him about it.
Really?
That big lodge house.
Yeah.
Tisha and Tim bought that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not. He says it's on their property. I looked at Land Glide. It's not, but it's literally 50 feet off of their property.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah.
Well, oh. Is that the Africa song? What is this? What's the words, babe? The Africa song?
I will praise my Yah according to his righteousness. I'll sing praise to Yeshua. I will praise my El with my whole heart. I will be glad and rejoice in you. He's like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruits in season. Whatever he does prospers. Blessed is the man that doesn't walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, but his delight is in the Torah. On this he meditates both day and night. He's like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruits in season. Whatever he does prospers. I will praise my Yah according to his righteousness. I will sing praise to Yeshua. I will praise my El with my whole heart. I will be glad and rejoice in thee. He's like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruits in season. Whatever he does prospers. There's your song, guys. Original, I wrote, I think that's Psalms chapter 1, basically, is what I stole. Stole David's song.
Good stuff, sir.
Thank you.
Your camera's super dirty, but the audio was good. We didn't need to really see your face.
I had a whole applause thing going on, but I was deep in my phone and I couldn't unmute it. I didn't realize that for a little bit. So,
Yeah,
your camera needs a poly wipe or something for sure.
Well, I got this camera or this computer secondhand, and it had some tape over the camera, and I need to remove the gunk that's still there after I remove the tape. So hopefully it looks a lot better once it's properly cleaned.
I mean, it looks like either the camera's dirty or Cheech and Chong just left that room.
Well, there's also a slight blur filter going on behind me too.
Oh, got you.
So,
That checks
for
out.
example, settings. Oh wait, no.
Where's the other voice today? You can't see me waving, but I'm waving at you. She's been very quiet. She asleep or gone?
Who, Evie?
Yeah.
She has been in the bedroom. She's had a really bad cough, so she's being polite and staying back there and not causing a lot of noise in what was my sensitive microphone. Picks up everything.
I've not heard a peep. Shiloh's got that cough too.
Is that a lot better?
No.
Were you guys actually just thinking it was the blur background that I had?
No,
No,
I think it's just
sucks
the
really
tape
bad.
stuck to the lens. Needs a little alcohol on the glass.
I always need a little alcohol.
Yeah, try hitting it with some vodka or something.
Okay, babe, someone just pulled up.
What do you mean?
It looks like it's your
It's
truck.
Shabbat. You better pick up some stones.
Looks like my truck. It's probably Tim.
It's Tim.
It's
Whoa.
Tim.
It's Tim.
I didn't invite him here.
He's watching the live stream.
Right? That's probably what happened.
He's inside. He knows you're here. I just told him.
What are you doing here? You're not invited. He's like, can I just pulled up in your truck? I was like, it's gotta be Tim. Is Billy with you? Or are you waiting on Billy? He forgot. Oh. Well, guys, I think that's my cue.
All right.
All right, sir. You have a good day.
I'm going splunking, or whatever you call it.
Yep.
Splunking, caving,
Yeah, spelunking.
catfish crawling. We just like to catch them and put them back, though. We don't eat them. You know.
Doing some noodling.
Some noodling. That's what it is. I couldn't come up with. But sometimes we catch bats just for fun. You know.
You know how you can catch
Anyway,
bats?
other stuff to do is my point. I guess I gotta go.
Laters.
See you.
You guys have a good time. Dustin, have a good look at your show. Everybody else have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.
Did I hear this is being streamed to YouTube?
It is.
You're welcome.
I didn't sign a permission slip for that.
That's okay. You didn't have to.
We'll just mute it every time you go to
Yeah.
speak. We'll just mute your voice and blur
Nice.
out.
I like it.
And get rid of your
You guys
gravatar.
can't see the chat anyway. They'll all just be calling me a heretic.
Did you say there's people in the chat?
No, I said there isn't anybody in the chat, and even if there
Oh.
were, they couldn't, like, unless you're watching the stream, you wouldn't know what they were saying anyway, so most
Oh,
of the
okay.
comments will just be
Okay,
directed
gotcha.
at me. But I don't mind.
Yeah, the current arrangement is I'm going to run Gypsy in the broadcast, and Jeremiah's going to do the live stream. Like one computer, at least my one computer here, couldn't do it all at once.
Where's your wife, Jeremiah?
She's sick with Eden.
Sorry.
Yep, her and the kiddo are all curled up, snuggling. Yeah, Eden was sick whenever we got back from Sukkot, and then they just recently got sick again, and then Eden gave it to Mom, to Brooke, and so yeah. They're doing their rounds. Sent Aiden to his grandma so he wouldn't get sick. And I'm secluding back in my room. Donna, have the sacrifices been ended? Do you think there'll be something in the future, or?
That's a good question.
Do you have an answer for that, or is that just one that's kind of been on the back burner? That
I haven't actually studied that, other than based on what I see on the surface, that yes, they will return. I don't know if I see it as an animal type sacrifice or more of offerings. What's your thought of, like, produce and different things like that? Because to me, the ultimate sacrifice has already been made.
Gotcha.
And that there's no, unless we're going to continue to sin in the 1,000 years, because I don't think we get a perfected body until after judgment,
Okay.
if I understand that correctly.
I was just curious.
And,
I'm not
and
going to say I
in
understand
that
it correctly.
case, we would need the sacrifice because Shua, I don't think his sacrifice is once and for all.
Gotcha.
That's just the way I see it. What's your thought?
Yeah, I still lean more towards sacrifices. Like I see what I see as future sacrifices in the Old Testament that haven't seemed to have taken place yet.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like if the Jews built a temple or, something right now that I'd go over there and make sacrifices, but
Yeah. No.
if God actually came back and set something up, then I wouldn't be against it, I guess is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
But
Well, at that point, it's not up to It's
I've ran
him.
into a couple of other like Mike. Mike is a Book of the Covenant, not Book of the Law, so he thinks that all the sacrifices got ended. So he's a little bit different.
I also don't think we're in the new covenant.
Right? Yeah, I don't either. And what was I gonna say? Oh, the law that was added because of sin. Do you have anything on that?
I think the law existed. I think it existed with Adam and Eve. I think the sacrificial part of the law got added when they sinned. That the skins that were made were the first sacrifice. That the Father had to do that. But I think the law existed with Yeshua, who I believe, in my opinion, the way I understand it, is created everything. That he pre-existed with the Father. And so in that instance, if so, then the law existed with him.
Okay.
Well, I think that, Moses was given the copy and shadow from the heavenly sanctuary, the heavenly temple of. And so I think the sacrificial system is really just a meal with the Father, and that the angels even have a priesthood up there, and that's now how Yeshua is the high priest. And I think that they do all of the appointed times, the Moedims in heaven also, and that's just what we shadow down here. And so I think it's been from the beginning.
I agree with you, Callie.
Yeah, that's kind of where my questions always go. If Moses copied everything out of heaven, does that mean that he also copied the sacrifices out of heaven? And if he didn't, why do you have a tabernacle with stuff to make sacrifices and offerings? But I don't know. I don't know how to piece that together.
Well, didn't Elijah, who was it that saw a vision of the tabernacle in heaven, though?
Well, I know Ezekiel 40 through 40, what is
Right,
it,
yeah.
46
48,
or 47?
40 to
It's
48,
long.
yeah.
It gives you all of the measurements and everything to do with the New Jerusalem.
Yeah,
Which New
that one always
Jerusalem, I
makes me
mean,
question too.
there's a heavenly sanctuary in New Jerusalem that will come down through the layers of the firmament and here. And I know that there's I'll have to get my Bible out to find this.
Yeah, like Ezekiel 44:9 says, "Thus says the Master Yahuwah, no son of a foreigner, uncircumcised in heart or uncircumcised in flesh, comes into my set apart place, even any son of a foreigner who is among the children of Israel." Like how do we take that verse in light of the New Testament? And
Well, interesting, it says no son of the foreigner, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh. I'm wondering
right.
if in your linear it says and. Because a lot of times we get stuff inserted. We get things
Oh,
that
okay,
are
okay.
inserted that are part of the English language that may not exactly actually exist.
So you think it's just no stranger uncircumcised in heart, uncircumcised in flesh? Because
It's
yeah, like the Nor doesn't really have a word.
right. They don't have like these and ands and
Right. Yep. I'm with you
stuff
there.
like that in Hebrew.
Yeah. Okay.
So my question would be, Yeshua was always after people's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing with Paul, is he, when they asked him, he wasn't gonna require circumcision, but he
Right.
had to go circumcise Timothy because everybody was up in arms. But they asked him, new converts, what do you have to do? Well, is it abstain from eating the blood, fornication? But he didn't mention circumcision. It
Right.
was the heart that he was always after. So I'm wondering if that, what that is when you put that up just now.
Right.
But you had to be circumcised in the flesh for Passover.
Yeah, for sure.
So that
Yeah,
makes
I
me,
was just curious, just some conversations that I've run into here and there.
well, if you're gonna ask my opinion, you have to give me yours.
Right. Yeah, I mean yeah, I mean I read the Bible very literally, so I mean yeah, unless somebody can show me the spiritual side of it, the Ezekiel 40 to 48 temple seems pretty literal to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like we've got, I'll bring you into the wilderness of the Gentiles, shall enter into judgment with you face to face, the same way I entered into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of Egypt. I'll make you pass under the rod, bring you into the bond of the covenant, purge out the rebels. The rebels will come out of the land where they sojourned, but they will not enter into the land of Israel. And so like this, like in my opinion, is describing the greater Exodus, the second Exodus, whatever it is that you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
the regathering. And I have a hard time believing that this Exodus happened, in the past at some point. So I still lean towards it being in the future. And then verse 40 says, on my set apart mountain, all the house of Israel, all of them in the land shall serve me. There I shall accept them, and I shall require your offerings and your first fruits of your offerings together with all of your set apart gifts. So I mean, is that just the spiritual offerings? I don't know.
I'm thinking that's real.
Yeah, like I read it very literally, so that's what I see. But maybe this is just
Well,
talking about the way we live and our prayers, and yeah, I don't know. I'm sure somebody spiritualizes it, but I don't know how to. That's my problem.
I think it's both. In that right now we're not in the land,
Right.
and so
Yeah,
our
obviously we're
offerings,
still way back up here waiting for him to gather us
mm-hmm,
up.
our offerings can still be of a circumcised heart.
Yeah, yeah.
And most of the time we do, even though we don't do it for the right reasons or understand what we're doing, most of our males are circumcised in the
That's
United States.
yeah.
Um, but I think that sort of kind of points. I don't know if you heard Steve's teaching about. Let's see, is it something in the parousia? It's talk Armageddon and the parousia,
Yep.
where
Hey guys,
that to
sorry to
me.
interrupt, but I'm gonna have to go. I had a whole bunch
Okay.
of people show up. But
Have a good
I
day.
really wanted to jump in on this conversation. So can we try to you guys go over it, and then I want to jump in on it. Maybe we could bring this conversation back up another
That'd be
time where I can
awesome.
Yeah.
participate.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Why not?
And hey, it'll be on YouTube, so you can always catch up.
Yeah.
Take
Not
it
on
away.
my-
ain't gonna happen.
Jeremy, it sort of kind of reminds me a little bit of Steve's teaching about the bride being gathered at Har Moed for the wedding supper.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That is the mountain of the covenant,
Mm-hmm.
is Har Moed, the mountain of the appointed time, which to me is Mount Sinai, the true Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that reminded me of just now as you brought that forward.
Yep, I can see that.
And then once all the rebels are removed from the land, the tares are taken, then we get to move back to the land. But he's got to bring us to Har Moed for the marriage supper first,
Right.
for Yeshua to marry us again. It's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It seems like all over the New Testament, even specifically like Isaiah 56, to the eunuchs who guard my Sabbaths and have chosen what pleases me and are holding on to my covenant. I mean, this is, in my opinion, talking about the eunuch in Acts. Even like not just in general, but like naming us. I don't know if they name him, but the was it Ethiopian eunuch or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That who ran up to him? It wasn't Paul. It was who went and jumped in the chariot with him.
Right. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. It was somebody that got like
It,
transported there.
yeah, and then he ran up and
Was
joined
it
him because
Philip?
the eunuch was reading the scripture, and he asked him what he even
Yeah,
knew he was
He was
reading.
reading the scroll of Isaiah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
hey.
what's even more interesting is the eunuch was reading the scroll of Isaiah, and then Philip, or I don't think it was Philip. I can't remember
Oh
who it
my
was.
gosh!
But
Now
anyway,
you
yeah.
got me. Now I gotta go look.
Right. But anyway, yeah, he comes up and the eunuch is like, "Hey, can you explain this to me?" And then, they go over the scroll of
Yeah.
Isaiah, and then here we are in Isaiah and talking about eunuchs.
Interesting. Oh my
And,
gosh!
and then, yeah,
Very good.
again, it says they're sending offerings and their slaughterings are accepted in my slaughter place. My house is called a house of prayer for all peoples. Like, uh,
Oh, exactly.
so yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's like
everywhere I
anybody's
look,
got.
I see literal sacrifices. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like whoever wants to do this can. And what's interesting though, um, it's been that way from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, when Israel came out of Egypt, it was a great multitude, including Egyptians, that came with them.
Yeah.
And they were told, if you want to be part of Israel, you can do that. This is the law. You follow this law, you are circumcised. You can join. So we missed that. Philip
It
is who
was
it
Philip.
is.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, very good. So I think that, and as I'm saying that, it makes me think that of course, it was Israel's sins that caused them to get vomited out of the land, but the Father did that on purpose so that people could be brought into His kingdom, not only to be married in by blood, but also to be grafted in to Israel. And it makes me think about when it talks about the branches being broken off. There's this movie, Walk in the Clouds. It was Keanu Reeves. It was back in the 2000s or 2005 or something like that. And he met this vineyard owner's daughter in Italy. He was on his way back to the United States from the war. He ended up marrying her, but they had a fire in the vineyard and it destroyed the entire vineyard except for the root plant. and the plant had been completely destroyed except for just the roots. And he pulled the roots up, and he was like, I can restart from this. And it dawned on me the other day, is like, oh my gosh, how that is a picture of the Father sending the Messiah. He's going to destroy everything, but I can restart from the roots of this vine. So to me, it was just a picture of
Yeah.
Israel being grafted back in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Very
anybody
cool.
that wants to accept, anybody that wants to receive it can be grafted in.
That's the good news right there.
Absolutely. And that is the good news. But I think whoever is grafted in, you're Israel.
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
there's a two house. I think it's Judah and Israel, and that's it.
Most
There are no
definitely.
Gentiles. I'm sorry I interrupted you. What did you say?
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Just yeah, I totally agree. Ephesians 2 and Romans 11 are. I
You're
mean,
so good with
they
knowing where
they
stuff.
they
I
just
don't.
beat a dead horse. I mean, I don't see how anybody can get around it. I mean,
Even at
people still do,
12,
but
you know,
sorry, I didn't catch what you said, Dustin.
I didn't either.
even Exodus 12 and 48, it
Oh yeah.
talks about, Yeshua, the Passover lamb, and those that eat of it are as one born in the land. You know,
Yup.
But yet I don't know how we can get around that, though, Jeremy. Though Jeremiah or Ezekiel or is it Isaiah? Where is it talking about the tabernacle and the sacrifices and?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know either. You know, I mean, I can see how people can spiritualize it and oh, we're the temple now, and yeah, I get that, but like, I don't know. It seems like the language that's used is like way too literal. It doesn't it doesn't seem like they try and spiritualize it. So
And
yeah,
I'm
I
wondering
don't know.
too if the spirit is an actual indwelling, or is it rest? Okay, so what's the difference? Like in David, you said, "Don't take your spirit from me. Your spirit is resting upon me." Um. So, how is it different for us? Is it actually indwelling for us? Is that what's different?
Oh, that's such a good question. Does anybody else want to answer first?
Doesn't it say that? Doesn't it say that somewhere?
No, you're probably right, and I would probably argue that there is a difference. Like, I don't know. Okay, this is just going to be thus saith Jeremy. I'm not going to be able to prove any of this. But
Right.
I guess in my mind, the you know, having it on you or near you is kind of the same as we are now. Whereas the apostles were actually like filled with the Spirit, and that's why they were able to perform miracles.
Okay, I'm bringing stuff up. So, First Corinthians, it says, "Do you not know now that you are a temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwells in you?" So, can you bring up First Corinthians 3:16
Oh,
and then
316.
6:19?
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Well, that's interesting, yeah, because that seems to suggest that it's definitely in us. Yep.
So
That's
it
good.
is an indwelling for us.
That sure seems what it looks like.
But didn't David
You might be right, but like Psalms or not Psalms, Chronicles and Kings and Samuel is like my least read book, so I'm not gonna be able to give a whole lot from there.
Okay, so Isaiah 11, 1 through 3. Well, that says the Spirit of the Lord rests on Messiah. And I've got friends that take that scripture and say that that means that Messiah was not um, Elohim, was not God, and that
Gotcha.
the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, rested upon him instead of indwelling him, but he was fully man and not fully God. Which is my belief he was both. That's just my personal, that's the way I read it.
Right. It's kind of terrible that whenever you get to some of these topics, it's very dangerous for someone to be calling you a heretic. But I think some of the questions do need to be asked. Like I'm not sure that I would agree that he wasn't fully God or whatever, but it is a good question for sure, and yeah, I definitely do not know the answer.
I'm reading in the book of Sirach here about wisdom being created. And, again, this is extra biblical books,
Mm-hmm.
but it's pretty interesting nonetheless.
I think on wisdom, it's one of the seven spirits that surrounds the throne. It's one of the spirits of Elohim. And if that's true, then it would be a created being. Or I don't know if it would be or not, because if we look at the Trinity, which I don't prescribe to the Trinity as it's taught in the church any longer. That's one of the seven breaths, one of the seven spirits of Elohim. So was that created? Was that spoken out? Was that pre-existing?
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was created with faithful in the womb. Interesting. I've never read through this book, but
We read through that. It's an interesting book. Tobit's really interesting.
wow. Wherefore, let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words, which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself, and the prophets, and the rest of the books, have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. Interesting.
Yeah,
That's
it says Joshua was filled with the spirit of wisdom.
I find that to be true, Dustin. And so many things that, our Bibles, if I understand how they've come to be, they were translated from Hebrew to Greek to Latin to English.
mm-hmm.
You're going to lose something in that translation.
The whole hence lost translation idea,
Yeah, it's just inevitable. And you're taking a concrete language like Hebrew. It is what it is. And you're transforming it into a Greek, Latin, Greco-Roman ideology, where
Uh-huh.
it's full of philosophy and thought, and we got to think this out, and we got to reason this out. And that's not what Hebrew is. It says what it says, and that's what it is.
Yeah, like the Hebrew mindset is let me do it and then I'll learn about it, and the Greek mindset
Yeah,
is like let me learn about it and then I might do it.
right. And so I think a lot of times we try to, from that Greco-Roman mindset that we've all grown up with, and is all we know, we try to pick things apart because we really, really want to understand it instead of letting it be what it is. So maybe, Jeremy, that's part of what you're running into is you're reading scripture and you're reading it. It is what it is.
That could be it. I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, just wanted to throw some ideas out there, some stuff I've been talking about here recently.
Well, I may have just muddied the water.
Oh no, no, not at all.
All
I've
right, guys.
been
Well,
all
I
over
got
the
to
places.
go again, so I want to
Now
say,
you're leaving us.
Right, good, finally.
all right, bye, Felicia's.
Bye.
Yeah, got one guy, and he believes in Jesus, but he throws out Paul,
Mm.
Ezekiel, and Revelation.
Yeah,
And
and that
then
to me, that's a dangerous spot to be in.
right, like that's what blew my mind. Like, and um yeah, because most people that deny Paul are very quick to deny Yeshua, there later.
Exactly.
So it's really wild. And he takes that Jeremiah verse where it says, the lying pen of the scribes. He
Mm-hmm.
takes that like a little too literal. Um, but anyway, he's actually fairly pleasant to talk to, in my opinion. Like, I mean, we don't agree, but I mean, like, he'll admit whenever he's wrong, and
Oh, that's good.
he knows exactly where to go to, show you what it is that he believes. Obviously I don't agree with him, but it's not just him saying, "Oh, I don't believe in that book," and he won't even look at it. Like, he can actually go to that book and show you
Mhm.
where and why. But it's just an interesting perspective that I've come across. And even
Well,
though we disagree, uh, I actually have quite a bit of respect for him because he at least, will listen and stuff.
well, you never know how the Father will use that.
Yeah, yeah. And I
You know
mean,
that.
yeah, he may believe it later. We've had
Well,
some pretty good talks on it, and I've given
yeah.
him some opinions on what I think, so yeah.
I'm wondering. Our friend that we both know that I don't remember if he denied Paul first before he ended up denying Yeshua. He's he is vehement now,
Right,
and
and it just came out of nowhere too. There wasn't really a warning.
seemed to be.
Yeah,
But he's very good at pointing out scripture of why he thinks that that's not right.
right,
So, and I mean, I haven't talked to him in golly, year and a half.
right,
So, I don't want to, um, which is hard. I do pray for them, but
right.
uh, and then that I think it's Hebrews 11. It says those who once knew of the goodness. I'm highly paraphrasing here. Um, once knew of the goodness of Yeshua, but walk away. You cannot come back because you
Right.
cannot hail Messiah twice.
Yeah.
And it
Yup,
scares me.
for sure.
I think it's 11. It could be the wrong place.
Alright, I may have passed it. I'm a little slow because I was up so late.
We don't need to. We
I
don't have
really
to
was.
sit here, and you need to go take a nap.
I was up till like 9 a.m. and then I took like a 2-hour nap, and then just
Oh my gosh.
jumped right on here at 11.
You may want to go take a
Right.
nap.
But yeah, I know the verse you're talking about. But yeah, I don't remember exactly where it is. Anyways, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It is sad. Um,
Hebrews 6:4-6, 4-6.
okay.
I know it was in Hebrews. I just didn't have the right one.
For it is impossible for those who were once enlightened and have tasted the heavenly gift and have become partakers of the set-apart Spirit, and have tasted the good word of Elohim and the powers of the age to come, and fall away to renew them again to repentance, having impaled for themselves the Son of Elohim again, and put him to open shame.
Oh.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
Well, I'd be interested in chatting with your group one night.
Yeah, I mean it's
Allow some
a
estrogen in the
real
room.
range of opinions, you know. Like Mike, you know, he is Book of the Covenant, not Book of the Law. So we view the sacrifices a little bit differently. But I mean, he wears, eats clean, keeps the feast, you know, all that good stuff. Like we don't disagree on a whole lot. And then there's another guy who is Seventh Day Adventist, but I'm pretty sure he eats clean and he's open to the feast days. We haven't really got to talk to him a whole lot about it, but he's open to the feast days. And
Don't
then
they practice Christmas and Easter?
no, I don't think so, or
Okay.
at least I don't think he does.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a really serious SD Seventh Day Adventist. I think like he doesn't even say, you know, oh, this is a Ellen G. White quote, you know, let me go prove it from the Bible, you know, like as
Oh,
far
that's
as
good.
yeah, as far as I can tell, he's just literally only using the Bible, you know, he doesn't show Ellen G. White or, you know,
Doesn't
man-made,
elevate her.
yeah, or you know, like it's just not even in the conversation, you know, or it's not like he's getting an idea from a man-made book and then trying to prove it through the Bible. So, you know, we get along really well. And like I honestly I agree with like 99% of what he says because he just says the law. And so, you know, we just differ on what the definition of the law is. So,
Oh, that's it.
right, you know, so like really we agree on a lot because he leaves it pretty open. But yeah, like I mean, he takes the scripture seriously and you know, is pretty good at pointing out the foolishness in other people's arguments. So he'll probably be. We'll get him a Torah observant before too long. I told him he was Hebrew and he didn't even know it. Just the way that he talks and like the way that he like puts stuff together and everything. It's just oh man, yeah, that's good. And then even that Paul guy, I mean, or the guy that denies Paul and in Revelation and stuff. Like I mean, he's still pretty cool to hang out with. I mean, every once in a while you got to be like, all right, come on, man, like you're really, you know. He, I wish I could give an example. I'm being
Well, I find
terrible
that
at the
interesting
moment.
when he hangs out with you guys, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and he's fairly humble about it. I mean, you know, he doesn't think he's better than anybody else, and he's just like, man, this is what I see, you know. And yeah, I mean, like I've like multiple different occasions, at least a good three, I would say. That I've got to talk to him and hang out with him, so it's pretty interesting. And then yeah, just all walks of life. And I've been called a heretic plenty of times, so I'm not not worried about getting called a heretic.
I haven't been called that yet. But I'm pretty moderate. I mean, I don't if it like, I mean, I think we've talked about it at Sukkot. If it's a tradition and you can't back it up in scripture, not happening.
Right.
I think that we get off into doing something out of emotion because we're trying to replace traditions. They just must be, I think it's a comfort thing for us. It's something that's easy to do. It's external, and it's something we can look at. I watched a really good video that a friend of mine sent me. He's a young guy, a young Torah observant guy over in the UK. He's talking about, he said, I don't get really concerned over the sins of the flesh. He said, the flesh body has already been judged. You're going to die. He said, now that doesn't mean that you get to go do whatever you want to do. But he said, I focus on the soul, because if you will get the soul in order, the body will follow.
All right.
And his thing is, it's really, really easy for us to go, oh, you're a woman and you're not wearing a head covering and you're wearing pants. Oh, you're not wearing your tzitzits the right way, and you're not wearing, if you're looking at a man, he's not doing this, or his beard is not a certain way. He said, we look at that external because that's easy. But it's judgmental. And
yeah, it's
true. He said, we need to leave each other alone, basically. And oh, you're not following the right calendar. Oh, you're not observing Sabbath this way or that way. Instead of, what's the fruit of the Spirit? What is that person really like?
Mm-hmm.
How do they treat their fellow brother? Are they available when help is needed? Are they critical? Are they ruthless and mean? Those are the things that we need to be looking at, not if they're doing this certain thing.
Right. Yeah, I think that was part of the law's purpose in, since it began.
That's very good.
Shows, the law shows your heart just by the way that you use it. It says that the law is sharper than any two-edged sword. Well, are you using the law to attack someone for revenge, or are you using the law for restitution and restoration?
Oh, that's really good.
Just by how you use it shows what your heart is. You know what I mean? Like, my brother accidentally cuts off my hand. Now, if my heart's in the right place, I will go to my brother, and he will come to me. He will seek restitution and restoration, and we'll come to some sort of agreement, and we won't have to take it up in front of the courts, and I won't have to make the judge cut off his hand, and make things even, because I know it was an accident. I know my brother is sincere and is wanting restoration, and so
or take him to court and sue him for everything he owns.
Right, and then that just shows that my heart's not in the right place.
Right.
So even though I'm following the law, quote unquote, I'm not using it for a just cause, because I'm using the law for revenge, and that's not our place.
Yes, he says, vengeance is mine, not ours.
Right, exactly.
And I think that a lot of times when we start doing things on our own, we hold grudges, or we get this anger that we don't deal with. Don't let the sun go down on your anger.
Right, yeah, I think that's a very important verse.
That we don't go to our brother, that we've got a problem. And I'm not pointing at anybody, because I do that myself sometimes. I have certain people that don't want to deal with, and so it's easier to just let that fester. And what that does to our bodies and to our soul, it will lead to disease and illness.
Mm-hmm.
Because your body can't handle that stress.
A seed take root.
Yeah, your body can't handle that stress. And then if it's a heart problem, you got a heart problem. I mean, it's
Yeah,
then you're
exactly.
critical and you're bitter, and then people don't want to be around you. And I struggle with that a lot, and trying to really let the Father go in and take a blowtorch. And when you pray, create in me a clean heart, and you ask for the ruach to come through and burn all that dross out, you better hang on to your seat.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for.
You
You just
it
might get it.
hurts. Oh yeah, and I have, and it is painful, because then you get a mirror held up in front of you,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and then you're like, ooh, that's ugly.
Yep. Yeah, the only way to purify silver is to get it really hot until all the trash boils to the surface.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful description of the way he purifies us.
Oh yeah,
It's great.
it's painful. It is painful, and it's not a. You have to do that multiple times. It's silver and gold refining is not a one-time deal.
Mm-mm. It's like 7 times over or something like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just yeah. So you get through one burning, and then he's going to give you a minute to rest, and then you're going to get another one. And each time there's a little less to have to deal with, but it's just as ugly. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm. Um, have you heard of the crimson worm?
I have heard it. I don't know that I know. I've heard the term. I don't know that I remember what that is.
Um, I think it's in Isaiah, but I'm pretty sure Jesus said it too. But he says, like their worm will not die, and Jesus says that he is the worm, or maybe that's an Old Testament quote. But anyways, it's a specific kind of worm, and it's like toaleth in the Hebrew, but it's
Talaas.
yeah,
Talaas. I
yeah,
say it. Mm-hmm.
and anyway, it's the crimson worm. It's red, obviously, and so what it does is whenever it's pregnant and is getting ready to have babies, it crawls up onto a tree and attaches itself to the tree, and like it encases itself in this red thing. I don't know what sack or whatever, and it's blood red, and it will actually stain the tree that it's attached to, and then it also stains the babies that are inside of it. And then the mom has to die, and then the babies are like born inside her, and they eat her
Oh,
body, so that they can
wow.
live. And I want to say it's like a 3-day event, and to kick it off, the worm like arches its tail back towards its head or something and makes the shape of a heart. And then it dies, and then the babies eat it for like 3 days, and then on the fourth day, the the red dye turns white as snow and actually starts to flake off like snow and fall to the ground.
Wow.
And then it it attaches itself to a certain type of tree that's like only in the Middle East and could have possibly been used for the crucifixion. It's yeah, like I mean, the first time I heard this story, they had really emotional music playing and like visuals of this worm and stuff like that. I mean, I bawled like a little baby, but it's such a it's such a
I
beautiful
would
picture.
too.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a beautiful picture. That basically this worm knows that it's going to die the whole time, and it's just it's an endless cycle. You wouldn't have babies if the mom didn't give her life, and then they have to eat the
Wow.
mom, and the mom's
Ugh.
blood, if you will, is what covers them, and you know, and keeps them crimson.
Well,
But
just
yeah,
think about that for a second. For a woman to give birth, how her body is actually sacrificed to a degree. It's stretched out of shape.
right.
There's lots of blood when that baby's born. And then she sacrifices her body for a time with, breastfeeding and, um, you know, how many times she's got to get up in the middle of the night to go care
Hmm.
for that infant for weeks upon weeks. Um, but yeah, not to that degree. But how many women died giving birth to their children?
Right, yeah, that's true too. Probably quite a few.
So, but not knowing that they're going to die. They're assuming they're going to live and, care for this infant. But that's very interesting. Well, and then look at the opposite side, like a black widow. That male spider's dead.
Right, yeah, or like a praying mantis. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, come into my web. Yes, please come in. And then I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Yeah,
some men
there's
feel that way sometimes.
I want to say there's an octopus species that like even if the female's not in the mood, she'll still let the male like start the process, and then once he gets close enough, she'll just wrap him up and eat him.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
like yeah, it's like just
Okay,
wow.
he needs to be really cautious, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm wondering how many men feel that way, though, sometimes.
that's true. That's probably a true statement. The world is a not good place.
I was listening to some psychologists talk about what's going on with, relationships right now. And it was talking about, and I look at it, when I listen to these guys, I'm able to look at it from our perspective of how the Father created relationships, how the man and the woman were to be created, and how that was supposed to look. But he was talking about, so women nowadays are told they can go do anything you want. And she leaves her father's house. She goes to college. She's off college 4 years. Then she goes and gets a job. She is competing in a masculine world.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has to become more masculine. Her demeanor, her thought processes, her emotions, even studies that say the testosterone level goes up in the body so that she can do what she needs to do. Well, what ends up happening is she becomes so dominant that she is going to pick a non-dominant male. When in actuality, what she needs is a very dominant man, but that's not what she's going to choose. And so, which is fine for a while. She gets to control the situation for a while. She ends up marrying him. They have several kids. And then after a while, she absolutely despises what she chose. But she chose him because the relationship got flipped upside down. They end up divorcing. She ends up getting half of everything he owns. So now what's happening is these men are seeing all of this and they're going, I want no part of this. I'll just remain single. So you've got these 30, 40-year-old women that now are in, about early 30s. Women start going through the crisis of now she wants children and she's going biological clock's running out.
Yep.
She can't find a man to marry her.
I was actually watching somebody talk the other day, and I believe it was from a secular point of view, but they were talking about there's actually a fear of decreasing IQ because the higher a woman's IQ or the higher level of education that she has, the less likely it is that she will have children.
That's
So
probably
the
true.
only people who are reproducing are the ones with less IQ, and thus it affects the overall
Mm,
intelligence of the population. It's actually something that even
interesting.
secular scientists are worried about.
Well, yeah. I mean, and these are secular guys talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here, and one of the comments was, and I don't know if it was, um, I don't know if it was they actually made the comment or I actually had the thought process. A woman, oh, they're talking about, and these are secular guys talking about this, that a woman's role is to be a wife and mother. That's where she excels, and to be the helpmate for her husband. And she is much better off if she stays under the covering of her father's house and then moves to her husband's house. And there is not a break in that span. And it just kind of goes overall the way the father has set that up, in that she goes from her father's house to her husband's house and then back home to her father's house. If something happens to her husband, she's to go back home or to be in a male provided for in a brother or uncle, whatever the
Right.
closest relative is,
Mm-hmm.
so that she does not have to then fend for herself.
Right.
Um, so it's just really, really interesting, and it's gotten so. And I grew up with that. I mean, I grew up feminist, so to really understand that concept and to come full circle, it's sort of kind of mind blowing. To what what we've done to ourselves.
Yeah, it's amazing how far we've fallen from the true picture of how we're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost seems like we're so far gone. Like, how can we ever get back? It's yeah.
Yeah. Well, those that are really truly trying, but I am at the point where the only thing that's going to do it is Messiah coming back
Yep.
and
Set the
wipe
world straight.
and set it and turn it on its ear and set it all back to the way it's supposed to be. I think society as a whole is that far gone. I don't I'm seeing the rise of Christian nationalism, and I mean nationalism over the entire earth is coming through, and that's actually what brings in the end of the age. It's not the new world order structure as we're taught. It's actually nationalism,
Yeah,
and
I can go for
we
that.
we see it rising. Um, but what everybody's going to do, that's where they're going to say peace and safety,
There you go. Yeah.
because oh my gosh, we've established all of this, and we've taken this back from the enemy. We've done this, we've done that, and there's no true repentance, and they're just going to it's just going to get sucked right in.
Yep.
So, and you were going to go take a nap like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, I probably should.
Well, I
Probably
enjoyed
should. Have too much fun talking though.
it. Is
But
fun,
yeah,
and
I
I'll
don't, I
try
don't
to
know where
join
else
you
we
guys
go
next
from here.
week.
So yeah, we probably could wrap it up.
I'll try to join y'all next week in there in your man's chat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Bring Sebastian in the room.
Yeah. Send me a link to your group. I might join in on it. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
and you said you are 8:30. Are you Central Time?
Oh no, it's 10 o'clock Central Time, 10 a.m. on Sabbath morning.
No, I mean like whenever you quit electronics.
Oh, I'm supposed to at 8:30. I can if I plan for it a little bit better, but
Right.
I
And
mean if I
then
know that I'm going to be doing it all.
right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to say, if I do find a group or something, I can shoot you a link
Oh, absolutely. That'd
link
be
to it.
great.
I just wanted to make sure, or if if you were in Central Time or if I needed to remember a different time.
I'm just down the road from you, straight down the road from you.
Okay. Okay. All right.
All right.
Sounds
Thanks.
good. Yep. Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye.